Hello and welcome everybody to the AI Biz Hour with Andy and John. It is February 25th, 2025. It is 12:01 and we would like to acknowledge our sponsors for today's show. Today's show is sponsored by Virtual Synergy Inc. If you could free up hours in your day without sacrificing productivity, successful entrepreneurs know that the secret to do that is to delegate. If you're looking for an employee to handle your administration, there's no better employee than a virtual assistant from Virtual Synergy Inc. Virtual Synergy Inc. connects you with skilled human virtual assistants who handle your administrative work, emails, and scheduling so you can focus on what truly matters, and that's growing your business. No stress, just expert support on demand. Stop managing your tasks and start leading your business. Andy, how are you doing today?
Okay, I'm good. I've got to make sure I hit the right microphone and mute. I'm good today. It's fantastic. It's a beautiful Friday. And can you believe, John, can you believe 120 episodes? How about that? That's amazing. And, some are great and some aren't. But listen, we just keep on coming with the news and information and new stuff. And fantastic. So, please hit up Virtual Synergy, go to their website, fill out their form, see if that something can benefit you. So, what do we got in the news today? Some days like today, I am been super busy. So, what's going on today?
Well, the big news for my industry, being that I do SEO and stuff like that, is that Google lost their case today, and so it's mainly about ads and stuff, but there's going to be a lot of ramifications towards that, and of course, Google. People kind of think that Google wasn't really, getting too far into the AI game, but that does not seem to be the case with everything that they have. They have a lot more going on, and really they've been crunching data like nobody else out there. But today I'm hoping that our guest speaker will be here today as well, talk about security, which is really relevant, based
Yeah,
on
with Michael.
yes.
So, I use the Gemini Gemma models in my open source on LM Studio. That's the ones I like those, and then the uncensored Mistral ones. Those are the ones I seem to like the best. So yeah, I mean Google's amazing. But go while we're waiting for Michael, walk us back into that. What was the case? What was it about? Give us the short and sweet of it.
Okay, Oakley Dokley. So basically, I just had it up and then it got zapped. Let me give me 1 minute
Well, maybe
here.
Russ knows. Russ put his hand up. While John's finding the article, Russ, what's going on?
Yeah, I just wanted to say there are currently 19 people, 20 people in this space, and it'd be really great if we could see 20 quote posts and 20 retweets for this space. It would help AI John a lot. The discovery of spaces right now is a little bit buggy, so pushing this out to people's timelines is really the only way some of this stuff gets discovered. So just wanted to air that message for the AI John.
But Russ, if you please look at this is the AI Biz Hour with Andy and John. And Andy is the reason that I'm here actually today. But thank you, Russ, for stating
Thank
that.
you, John. Thank you, John.
but
I
yes.
remember that scene. Remember that scene in Top Gun where he goes, we go, no, we. He goes, yeah, where we, but yeah, thank you. Right. I feel like that little moment, like, yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. And I wouldn't be, and just Russ, to give you a little history of it, I wouldn't be here at all without Andy. And we were both. Andy was a member of the startup circle before I was, and then I became an admin and a member, and I was like, hey, and I talked to Andy and I said, I want to do a space on AI. I just don't want to interrupt yours. And he said, well, why don't you join me? And I was like, wow, I've always been this lone wolf in the wilderness, and I was like, Wow, I never expected to have a partner, and so we've been a partner now for quite a long time. And so
That was my mistake. I didn't mean to dismiss you, Andy. I just didn't realize that it was both of your spaces that you guys are co-hosting with, just not John's.
yeah, no, there's no dismissal there, but yeah, it's good to know the history a little bit. And Russ, you really are all over the place, and I'm really appreciate that. And Andy, while I get this Gmail or this Google thing going, please add to whatever I can't, because my mind it's Friday, right? It's somewhere else.
Well, so one of the things that I've been doing while we're waiting for Michael to talk about security is
and also
Yeah.
tell everybody to share the space and to repost it and everything else. And then as soon as you're done with what you're saying, I will get the Google stuff in the news ready until we get to Mike.
Yeah, we're at 5 reposts so far. So
All right.
funny.
So thank you for joining the AI Biz Hour with Andy and John. Make sure that you repost, click all the little buttons, share, side, follow, and be sure to join John's newsletter, Timo's newsletter, Kevin, the starter and the founder, admin of the Startup Circle. Make sure that you follow all of them, follow all the speakers, and do all that. Okay, I'll turn my radio voice down.
I do like hamming up that radio voice. I hope some people say they appreciate it.
Yep. Well, you guys should know I'm a ham. Part of me is a giant ham. So it's just the way it is. But one of the things, so speaking of security, earlier this week, Sunday evening, late Sunday evening, somebody got control of this account, and they sent out a bunch of stuff in the background. So I'm really interested in looking at cybersecurity. It turns out that it seems like there was some kind of session key that was taken over, and then because even though I had multi-factor authentication turned on, password protect turned on my account, they just went in and disabled it, and then changed the password and changed the email address, and all I got was the notification that it changed. So I'm always interested in cybersecurity. I do lots and lots of projects like Timo does, and we have projects that are kind of significant because they impact lots and lots of people. So, hey Timo, I see you put your hand up. What's up?
Yeah, actually, you discovered and you were able to report on the quite significant problem in the security system here on X, and I talked to Sierra about it a bit, and she said that the security was super happy that somebody was able to report so well on what had happened, because they got a hunch of it, and hopefully the bug and the vulnerability is now fixed.
Yeah, I've seen that as well. Without sharing the rest of the details, while we were going through this on Monday or Tuesday, I shared a lot of specific details in our space. And in the back channel, I was getting notes like this: "Hey, Andy, don't tell people so much of what was actually going on or how you have your things set up." And I hear that, but here's the thing: I've been doing IT projects for 3 decades or more. I'm not going to, well, at least how about 3 or 4 decades? How about that? And I know the only way to fix things is to be transparent and say, this is what's going on. This is what I did. This is what I saw. This is what happened. This is the details I have. These are the things that I was doing. This is the kind of protections and things I have in place, so that it might, and usually it does, trigger one little thought of somebody going, hey, maybe, and then they go down the right path to find what the vulnerability is. So even though, yes, I did expose myself to some very particular types of attacks, just know I have other protections involved in at the network level, at the connection to the internet level, to the computer level, to the browser level, to the other things that I didn't share. I simply shared what I thought was relevant and appropriate. So I dig security. I find it interesting because it's a cat and mouse game. You are never fully secure and you are never fully unsecure. So it's kind of like you have a car. If the windows are down, the keys in it, and the doors are open and it's running and nobody else is around, you can jump in and drive off. The converse is the car is taken apart and you have to assemble it in order to make it run. That would be fully secure, but absolutely unusable. The other way is 100% usable and not secure. So somewhere along the middle is where you have to live. Yeah, go ahead, Timo.
Yeah, it's the residual risk. How much risk you are willing to take on actually getting the systems to work. But yeah, funny story back from the 90s here in Finland. There was a businessman who was probably one of the first.
My apologies, Timo.
Oh, we
Continue.
fat fingered it and muted you. Oh yeah, go
Timo,
finish your
go
story
on.
and then we'll get to Michael. Go, come on, come back, Timo. Go ahead, unmute and tell us your story, Timo.
Timo, are you there?
Oh,
Okay, there's the glitch.
okay,
If you
there we go. He's back.
if you mute everyone, it could trigger a glitch that takes you on a 20-second penalty. So yeah. So this dude who had multiple Ferraris, he used to come and flex, obviously, and he drove them into this like a yacht pier, and there was like an ice cream kiosk in front of it that was like the hottest place to get ice cream at the seaside. And he always left the cars. They were convertible, and he left them on the pier side and with keys on them. So somebody asked him like, "Why do you leave? Like, what's up with that?" And he said like, "Well, if anyone takes that, there's like two of these cars in this country, so if they're gonna drive out from this busy beach side, the cops are gonna be out there in like 2 blocks away, so they're they're not getting far." So he took that risk knowing that nobody would actually steal them because they would immediately get caught. So yeah, that's her risk awareness on its one very laid back way of thinking.
Yeah, that's interesting. There's lots of stories like that with, the risk. So I always describe it like it's a risk profile. Here's the likelihood of it happening. Here's the impact of it being, identified or exploited, and then here's the impact of what would happen if they do. And anyway, I'm glad it happened to me. I'm glad it got back. I'm glad we fixed it. I ended up with two accounts, right? So I have an Andy account, and then there's also now an Andy unfiltered account. Follow that one for even more spicy content. But anyway, let's get to Michael, our special guest today on cybersecurity. And John, why don't you introduce Michael and take it away?
Today, our special guest with AI Biz Hour, Andy and John, is Michael.
All right, come on. You're making fun of me now. Come on. I used my radio voice earlier when you were taking a break. Now you're just mocking me.
But Michael, I don't know a lot about you. I know that you are in the cybersecurity specialist, product safety, and senior BD manager. It looks like you work with product safety with MetaMask. So if you could kind of introduce yourself to the room. I know that you were kind of involved or a bit helpful with Andy's problem. And how are you doing today, Michael? And thank you so much for taking your time out today. We really, really appreciate it, and we think it's kind of pertinent right now.
No, 1,000%. Really happy to be here. I love cybersecurity. I also love to make it not boring. I know it tends to get boring because we're talking about things that people just don't want to do in order to be secure. But look, this is why spaces like this are so important. And talking about what happened is also important because I think, like you mentioned before, if someone can take away a simple tip from a scenario that went wrong, it could really change the landscape of that person potentially not being compromised down the line. So, my name is Michael Kay. I'm the senior BD manager at Consensus. I'm also on the product safety team at MetaMask. And I come from the Wallet Guard acquisition about 9 months ago, where we created an open source free extension that blocked wallet drainers. And within about a year's time, we got to 100,000 users. We were able to save those users over $60 million from scammers. And MetaMask came, bought us out, and now we're integrated directly into the wallet level at MetaMask. So just over the past couple of months, as we've finished integrating the Wallet Guard security engine into MetaMask, we've increased the wallet drainer kit detection rate by over 200%, which is game changing for reducing fund loss incidents and just making onboarding in the space a lot easier. So really happy to be here, really happy to drop some security tips, and yeah, super excited for this biz hour.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So let me
Hey,
just
real-
before Michael, everybody here, we've only got 5 shares. This is very, very important. This is important for the community. If one person becomes vulnerable, it makes everybody more vulnerable. So please, everybody right now, share the space, post it on, tell everybody to show up, because we're all part of a community and we're part of a bigger community. And each of us here are part of even a bigger community. And so it's important for me that each one of you pay attention to what's being told today, share this and get as many people here. And then also this is being recorded, so you can come back, you can share it with your friends, your parents, what have you. But this is, everybody invests a huge amount of time here on X. And it let's I'm sorry to interrupt you, Andy, but go on now. And
no, it's okay. No, cool. I was just going to say we're live streaming on multiple channels too. So please retweet this, do that. Michael, thank you so much, by the way, for helping me. I didn't give you credit initially, but man, thank you. Some of the things you mentioned really changed things. And just to tell everybody, I went through from my connection to the outside world, to the inside of my to system, to the network that I use inside my house, and how my systems then. And then I went to each one of the computers that was connected and went through all of that, went to each one of the browsers. I updated, patched every single thing. I fixed all the details that was pointed out. And hopefully that will reduce the opportunity for bad actors to happen, but it's not going to prevent it. It's just going to reduce their ability to get through it. Michael, thank you so much. And thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's amazing to be here, and to be able to just talk about security. And you're right, nothing is 100% secure. You could have all the firewalls and antiviruses and security in the world, but if you're not vigilant, if you're not paying attention, something might get through. So I think it's crucial that in a space where we are becoming our own banks, where we are supposed to be the ownership of our own assets, we should at least be talking about security, because banks have multiple layers of security, and we're expecting the masses to come into crypto when the masses gets easily socially engineered, where the masses don't even understand how to manage their passwords. So the fact that this space only has 4 likes on it, I need everybody to hit that box at the bottom right of the screen, like and repost the room. We're going to be dropping unlimited value in knowledge, ways that you can actually protect your bags, all these different other spaces that you're jumping into where they're just the same conversation every single day about number going up and every chart looks exactly the same. Yeah, I'm trying to take you guys away from that so that when you do end up winning, or you do actually onboard someone into crypto, you don't lose everything. So again, really appreciate it.
There's one other thing I just wanted to, just real quick, just some basics, right? So a wallet is a place where you actually can store it. There are soft wallets, and there are warm wallets, and cold wallets, and hard wallets. And I know that Michael can describe that, but here's the thing: take those words, go to AI, say, "What the hell is this?" and it'll tell you. We don't need to explain everything today. Just the point is that that's the place where you put your money. You have to control that in various ways. So what Michael was talking about is how, and some of the softwares that allow into and out extraction from those different types of wallets. So just to make sure that we got vocabulary, everybody's kind of in the same place. And now we can go back to you, Michael, and you can help us with all the rest of the cool stuff, because I don't think we need to go from 0 to 1 level 1, but we might want to go from level 10 to level 50 if you get my drift.
Yeah, I think the best way to handle it is to meet people where they're at. Like, I don't want to have people having to learn new things, right? I want them to be comfortable and understand what they're currently using. So this is why this is a great conversation. A lot of Web 2 threats are bleeding into Web 3 assets. Things that existed before crypto are affecting your crypto. And this is what I mean in terms of malware, social engineering, Trojans, phishing scams. These are all things that have nothing to do with Web3, but they actually end up affecting your Web3 assets. So the thing that I really like to talk about is let's Web2 before we Web3. How do we set up our devices in a way? What software do we use so that we can make sure they're locked down, not only for our Web3 assets, but also our Web2 data? A lot of times people don't realize how much sensitive information they have sitting on their device, on their computer, on their smartphone. A lot of people actually sync their entire lives to their iCloud or their Google account. What happens if someone gets into your account and they can see all of your photos, your videos, your notes, your automatically logged in banking application, your iMessages? You have to really take a step back and ask yourself, you're holding a device in your hand on a daily basis. Do you really understand how much information you're giving away, how you can actually lock it down, and if something goes wrong, what to do after that point? Because trust me, if you get scammed, if you get drained, if you get hacked, your emotions are going to be all over the place. You're not going to know where to start. So, being able to provide good information so that people are prepared and also prepared to the point where it doesn't happen is the ultimate win. I do see Lloyd has his hand up. So,
Well, before we go to Lloyd, I wanted to say one quick thing, just to show you how important multi-factor authentication and your phone is to your digital identity or your digital twin. The first thing that, okay, so I have elderly parents. I have elderly parents with dementia. I've got all kinds of challenges health-wise. The very first thing is make sure that we have access to their phone, because without access to their phone, almost all their stuff gets locked out. That's good, but then we have no access to anything else. So if you want to maintain access, you need to protect both all of the digital connections you make to all of these web apps, and the key to your digital access, your multi-factor authentication, is your cell phone. And so you need to maintain both of those things as well. So I appreciate if you help with that a little bit. Hey, let's go to Lloyd. Lloyd, what's going on?
is
You
he
unmuted.
talking or?
I don't hear him. I see he's unmuted, but I don't see any blinking little buttons or anything.
Yeah, me neither.
Okay, well let's go back to John. I think John's got some questions, and let's go down the list of stuff you want to talk about.
Yeah, so I think that there's a little feedback. I don't know if everybody hears it, but so I'm amazed that there's any security in a cyber wallet like MetaMask. And also I am kind of you know, the threat, when you get a threat from someplace and you have no idea where it's coming from, who it is, it's a little more freaky than if you can determine where that is coming from. How so can you just kind of break down what are the things that we need to do, and how do we reverse engineer if something happens? How do we know that we're safe? Because like I heard, I have a Mac, and I heard that Macs are like, the worst thing in the world in terms of that. There's so much noise out there. Where do we find the right answers? And also what is the beginning of our foundation? Everybody here, this is the AI Biz Hour. Everybody knows AI. Everybody uses it. So, I always take notes on these shows, and I highly recommend everybody else takes notes. And so maybe you could give us some terms to research, and then how to, and then like, what would you talk on someone who's not an expert, but to get them to where they can feel confident that what they're doing is the right thing, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of different questions inside of that question, but one of the things that I heard you start off with is, how does a wallet have security in it? And this is actually a really good conversation because MetaMask is actually one of the most secure software wallets, and we're able to do that because every layer of the stack in MetaMask is focused around being privacy preserving and also security focused. So, a couple of different technologies that we've built out that are actually proprietary. One of them is called Lava Moat. Lava Moat makes it so that MetaMask is not susceptible to supply chain attacks, which is like a huge thing. You know, what happens if there's an application or a scenario where the user themselves cannot control something being compromised, but it could actually be handled at the wallet level? So, for example, we have something called smart transactions. In July of 2024, over $11 million was lost to MEV bots and front run attacks on all crypto wallets combined. $5 of that $11 million were MetaMask users, because we have that technology in place that stops your transaction from being front run and also prevents MEV bots. And this is all stuff that's like in the background, right? Like, how do we make it so that the wallet is handling a lot of the security? How do we abstract away the concept of needing 5 different security extensions and having to safely and securely store your seed phrase and private keys offline? Well, let's abstract away seed phrases. Let's abstract away security. We've already started to do that with, for example, Wallet Guard being acquired. Now, instead of having a separate Wallet Guard browser extension so that you could add security to your crypto wallet, it's now built in to the wallet. How do we make it so that we get rid of all these elements of friction, especially for onboarding? Well, EIP 4337 is going to allow us to implement account abstraction. We make it so that you don't have to have seed phrases or private keys anymore in order to safely manage and secure your actual wallet. So all these different developments are coming, and I'm actually happy that mass adoption didn't happen quickly, because it wouldn't have given us the amount of time to build out these interfaces, to build out these security layers. Imagine there were 10 times the amount of people here right now, but all the scams still existed. It would be detrimental to people's pockets, to people's wallets, to the bottom line of the entire space. So there's a lot of public good that MetaMask also provides, things that we're distributing to other wallets. For example, we have ETH Phishing Detect, which is our repository that we submit wallet drainer detections. We submit transaction simulations and human readable signatures, and other wallets actually pull from our repo in order to help secure the space. And we don't charge anything for that as MetaMask. You know, there's a lot of underlying security infrastructure that you're not going to be seeing spoken about on the timeline. The timeline is just looks like a bunch of degenerate gambling casino. But that's not what crypto and blockchain is about. There's real utility, real applications, real corporate and real life scenario use cases that are being built in the background that a lot of people are not paying attention to. So, given that fact, we also have DIN, which is our decentralized infrastructure network. It's over 100 providers, both Web 2 and Web 3, ranging from, names like Microsoft and Amazon to different providers for RPC nodes and liquidity pools and indexers and nodes. All of these are important when it comes to building out blockchain infrastructure. So if we're able to give these large companies that want to tap into crypto a way to do it safely, that's also a massive win for everybody in the space. So look, we're trying to make all of the security and all of the friction as minimal as possible at the wallet level. The wallet is truly going to be the operating system of the future. You're not going to need usernames, emails, and passwords. Your wallet is going to be your verification layer. You're not going to need multiple accounts and keeping your money in a bank where your money is not really your money. You're going to be your own bank, and you're going to be able to do it safely to the point where we made it where even if you try to mess up, you can't mess up. We need to make Web3 as easy to use as an ATM machine. That's how we can forego this mass adoption that everybody's talking about, because in its current state, it's still like the Pong phase. We're still building it out. But anybody that's here and starting to digest this information is going to be 1,000 miles ahead of the game. And if we're doing it safely, we're not going to be onboarding people that look back and say, yo, I just lost everything. Crypto is a scam. Because that's not what crypto is about. The actual technology is not a scam. Decentralization and getting rid of the human element cannot be a scam, especially when code is public and immutable. This is the logical evolution of currency and
Hey, you
verification.
guys remember me? I was on Twitter Spaces for a couple months, a little while ago.
Oh, hey, dude, I'm gonna put you down.
Hey, you want to hear about when I killed a kid?
Raise your hand. We're not putting up with any bullshit. Raise your hand, or you're gonna get kicked out. Not into it. Shut up. So, Michael.
Hey,
What
do you
the
guys want
fuck
to
was
talk about?
that? What was that?
I don't know, but I'm not going to put up with any crap. I just don't have time for it.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of
even,
there's tons of like shill spaces where they talk about the same thing every day, and you end up getting completely wrecked. You could go do that over there.
yeah, I just
I
we
mean,
don't have patience for
that's cool.
everybody here are serious people. We don't have time to waste. So, you're taking your time out, Michael. So I'm just not putting up with that crap.
No
So
worries.
so just one thing is like I'm not so I don't really know much about a web3. Can we just start in the simple thing is like in the hierarchy, is it your browser that's most vulnerable? Is it your passwords? Like where do you begin and then maybe lead us all the way over to web3 if that would be possible for some of the boneheads like myself?
Definitely, definitely. I just pinned it up to the top. It's a thread that I wrote called the Ultimate Security Thread. And it has a full breakdown on the ways that you should set up your device, whether it's a Mac, a PC, an iPhone, an Android. It tells you exactly what VPN to use, what ad blocker, what browser, what password manager, what antivirus, and it makes it all in layman terms. And it gives you direct links so that you can just sit down, execute this document, and feel 1,000 times better navigating both Web 2 and Web 3. This is a document that you should share with your friends and your family members that aren't even in crypto because they're probably using their computer and they're probably doing Google searches and Bing searches. 99% of the time, the first results are scam sponsored advertisements. And if you follow that thread that I put up at the top, not only would you never see those scam sponsored links to begin with, because you're now using an ad blocker, and hopefully you put it on your parents' computers, your grandma's and grandpa's computers, so they don't get scammed either. I know some of you haven't talked to your family in a while, but it's a good time to. Um, Even if you were to get to a scam link and you were to download malware, well, now you got the antivirus in place, so that'll stop it at that level. A lot of people on crypto Twitter get contacted in the DMs about fake video game invitations, about fake interviews, fake opportunities to make money. And a lot of times, these people in the DMs, their ultimate goal is to get you to download or install something. And what they're getting you to download or install is most likely going to be malware, a password stealer, a Trojan, a way to give them remote access to your device. And every time that I see people on the timeline saying that they got scammed by this sort of scenario where they got a DM and were tricked into doing something, it was always preventable to begin with. They just didn't take the 2 seconds to just set up their security the right way. People are afraid to be secure. It's kind of crazy. I have to scare people into being secure. This is like,
So you're saying most people scam themselves, right?
yeah, I mean, look, you're leaving the door open to get scammed. You're making it easy for a scammer to get into what you're doing. And it's because people are just afraid to be secure. So this is why I'm saying sometimes you have to scare people into being secure. I'll give you 2 examples. One example is a lot of times, especially with the older generation, they don't have a PIN or a lock screen passcode on their smartphone. And when I notice that, I say to them, hey, why don't you have it? Like, what happens if your phone gets stolen? They always look back at me, they chuckle, and they say, oh, nothing's important on there. There's nothing important I have. It's fine. And I say, oh, okay, cool. Give me your phone. I just want to look through all your text messages. I just want to look through your photos and videos and your notes and your emails. I want to open your pre-logged in banking application. And they look back at me and they say, okay, you're right. Like, let's put a lock code on this thing right now. I had to scare you like psychologically into wanting to be secure because you didn't think something was going to go wrong. It's never going to happen to you. You're not going to turn your computer on and it's not going to turn on one day and you just lost. Whoa, there's a lot of feedback.
Oh, sorry, that's me. I was just trying to jump in, Michael. I was going to say
Yeah, go ahead.
The only reason that every one of my machines wasn't compromised is because I had all of those things in place. And even then, somebody still got the session keys and figured out how to get access to my account, which has been fixed now. But
and that goes to show right there, right? Like, it's like no matter what you do.
I have a firewall at my router. I have logging and all kinds of things at the router. Then I have it at each machine. Then I have antivirus in each machine, and it just happened to be one particular.
So let's talk about this real quick. What antivirus are you using?
AVG.
Garbage.
Okay, well then all I need to upgrade.
It literally, I mean, that's probably what didn't detect the threat. You know,
Yeah,
if you
probably.
if you take a look at virus definitions and detection rates over time, and you compare it with like the top 50 antiviruses, you know, ranging from Norton, AVG, you know, Kaspersky, all these different, like AVG ranks like the worst. So I would definitely like it just that's just off of that's my experience being in cybersecurity. When generally when someone has AVG and they bought their computer into my IT store that I used to have, they had a virus and malware on the computer already, and I would look back at them and say, so what exactly are you paying AVG for? Like, isn't it
So
supposed to prevent this from happening?
so Michael, is the biggest threat your phone? Is it your browser? I know that you have the thing there, but if could get a kind of an idea on what that is, and then like, are all computers the same? PCs as opposed to Mac, iPhone as opposed to Android. Where do you start?
Anything that's connected to the internet, even if it's Linux, could be compromised. The thing is that you want to make sure you don't just assume it's secure out of the box. A lot of people say, "Ah, I have an Apple computer, it's already secure, I don't need to do anything." Well, then why half the people on the timeline that have Apple computers are getting their wallets drained because they installed some form of a password stealer or malware? It's just not true. You have to employ some level of security. You can't just assume the device that you just bought, that new PC you got that has Windows Defender on it, is ready to go. It's not ready to go. And when it comes to where can the threat start, what is the biggest threat? The biggest threat is you as a person and what you choose to do with the device that you're holding in your hand. For example, I've onboarded, you know, quite a few people into crypto. And I'll tell you this right now, no matter how many times you tell somebody, don't let anybody know your seed phrase. Keep it offline, somewhere where you're storing it securely, not connected to the internet. If you get an email, a text message, a phone call, a DM, supposedly from someone trying to help you with an issue with your wallet, or even if it looks like it's from Coinbase or from MetaMask or from Phantom or from Binance, even if it claims to be, and they're asking you, never give away your seed phrase. That's the only thing you got to really remember when it comes down to the seed phrase itself. Just don't give it away. And I can tell you right now, there's been multiple times where I get that phone call and the person saying, I got an email from Coinbase and it said to type my seed phrase and I gave it to them and everything's gone. What happened? It's like, it just goes over people's heads. This is human nature, guys. It's human nature to not care until it's too late. You're not going to think it's going to happen. You're going to think whatever message you're getting is actually real and legitimate. And this is why a lot of the education starts off with having nothing to do with crypto or blockchain. I start the education off with everything Web 2, things that you already know are there, but you never really realize how compromisable they are. Because, yeah,
What
go ahead.
what about keystroke? So like I would never do that, but like and then also, is there any product out there that I can put in my computer and it can actually check for vulnerabilities that I have currently? I mean,
Yes. So
I don't believe anything from anybody pretty much at this point anymore, you know?
not well, that's a good thing and a bad thing, let me tell you. So, you know, when it comes down to having the right software in that thread, the ultimate security thread, I tell you exactly what to get. And a piece of that stack is Malwarebytes. Malwarebytes is the antivirus that I recommend using. And specifically, I recommend using the premium version of Malwarebytes because it has active protection. If you're not using the premium version and you just have the free version installed, all that lets you do is perform a manual scan on your device. It does not actively monitor the processes running on the computer, check the downloads and attachments for malware, you know, check what website is visit that you're about to visit that might be compromised, so it stops you from entering. This is the difference between having a real antivirus and something that just sitting there running in the background using up resources on your computer. So with Malwarebytes Premium, I believe it's like $20 for the year for a single device. Is your Web 2 information worth $20? Are the assets in your wallet worth $20? So you might as well get it because it's going to prevent thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars in information being lost. Because again, every time that I see it on the timeline where people are downloading malware, Clearly, it's not a unreleased Unreal Engine 5 beta test. Clearly, Forbes did not reach out to you for an interview. Clearly, there was really nothing wrong with your account and you just believed some random person you never met over the internet into that something was wrong for some reason. But all of these things could have been prevented if you just had some security in place. If you just took the 2 seconds, maybe bookmark the thread up top and execute it on your devices over the weekend. You'll feel 1,000 times better navigating the internet if you do that. You'll feel a lot better not sweating and shaking every time you're about to click a link or confirm a transaction. I mean, look, it's not my loss, right? Like, I'll give you all this information. It's up to you to actually do it. But trust me, I know it feels good to know everything's locked down as much as it can be. I see a lot of hands up though.
Yeah, shall we get to the hands? So Jack, David, and then Timo. I don't know if that's the order. If anybody's upset with that order, just let me know. But otherwise, let's go that way.
Yeah. Hey guys. Great conversation, by the way. So mine's kind of. I think I'm pretty careful, but nobody can be careful enough. I agree with the sentiment that it's usually you that's the issue. Social engineering is a thing because it's a thing because it works. I just went to a conference where the guy, Catch Me If You Can, the guy that impersonated being a pilot and all that stuff, did a talk, and it was fascinating because what he really talked about was how clever, uh, um, threat actors are, and they will access things that are adjacent to the direct attack. So they might call to get a piece of, they go online. There are online auctions for your information. They might have your birth date and they might have your address, and they might call. Not your bank, but a utility company to try to just verify your lot number. Then they'll go look up your lot and get a whole bunch of additional information, and then use that to contact your bank. And I thought that was really interesting that they don't go direct to the source and try to get your information. They use adjacent information to piece together a picture that they can then use to go after you. That was really interesting. And then just a question. I just had a quick question for some of the people that are into cybersecurity. So I heard Malwarebytes used to use that back in the day, and then I got um, now I can't think of the name of it.
Bitdefender, Kaspersky.
No, it's Trend Micro.
Oh, Trend Micro. Yeah.
Yeah, which is a resource hog, right? But
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
it does have all the tools. So I was kind of curious if you thought that's a good package to have, because I've had it for a long time. And then two other things. One, use of
Really quickly, because I do want to comment and I don't want to lose track. I want
Go
to make
ahead.
sure your questions
Sure.
get answered. One
Yep.
thing that I wanted to actually bring up while you were talking about this Catch Me If You Can guy is that is exactly true. Threat actors are using information about you that's already leaked out there on the internet without having to do anything with you directly in order to get into your stuff. And a quick example of that, a very good example that a lot of people could understand because it's using layman terminology, is a SIM swap. It's when someone calls your phone provider and socially engineers one of the thousands of employees that are working at the phone provider into thinking that they are you. And once they have access to your phone number, you probably have your phone number tied to your Apple ID. You probably have it tied to your Google account. You probably have it tied to your Twitter profile. Guess what? That's an open door using an account recovery method as your phone to bypass your password, to bypass your two-factor authentication and get into your account. And once they're in one of those accounts, they're going to find out a lot more information. It's like a cascading effect. The ball starts rolling, they get through one variable, and then it exposes a million other things. So you can actually check right now what's leaked about you on the dark web, because most likely your phone number, or hopefully not a password that you're currently using, and hopefully like your address and your social are not there, but for most people that they are there. So it's very important to mitigate it in such a way where even if they did get access to your phone number, they wouldn't be able to get into your Google and your iCloud, and your Apple ID and your Twitter account. And the way that you can do that is by eliminating attack variables. So in order to completely prevent a SIM swap from occurring on an account that you care about, which again, I highly recommend doing this. It affects both Web 2 and Web 3. I'm not just talking about crypto here. I'm talking about your Gmail account. I'm talking about your Twitter profile, your bank, right? Like these are things that everyone's using no matter what, is to remove your phone number from your account. If you go into your Twitter settings, there are two places that your phone number could be. You could be using it as a two-factor authentication method, which by the way, you also shouldn't be using, because using your phone number as two-factor authentication is the most insecure method of two-factor authentication, because again, you don't own your phone number, the phone company does. So instead of using your phone number, you could use Google Authenticator, a hardware authenticator, anything other than your phone number. But that's one place that it might be two-factor. The other place it might be is in your account information screen. That's where it's used as a recovery method into your account. Same place as it is on your Google settings of your account. It's used as an account recovery method. On Apple, it's a little confusing because you have to have your phone number connected for the sake of using iMessage. But in a separate area in your Apple ID, in a separate area in the account, there's a way to remove your phone number as a recovery method. That's what we're trying to get to. We're trying to eliminate the attack variable where even if someone had access to your phone number, they can't get into your accounts because you've removed your phone number from your accounts. Now, again, just going to stress it. There's, I think, 50 people on the space live. I'm sure there's other people listening on different streams. There's going to be people listening to this recording because you definitely reposted it so people that couldn't make it could listen to this later on. But you're not going to do what I'm saying because you just don't think it's going to happen to you. This is just what it is. But for the 1% that are going to do it, trust me, you're going to feel 10 times better knowing.
If you remove all your stuff from your phone,
That's not what I'm saying. That you're not removing.
No, just taking the phone number as the authenticator off. Yeah, I started doing that, and I found it's everywhere, Michael. Seriously.
Yeah.
And I wanted to point out one other thing. As I mentioned before, I've done a number of identity management tools and processes, even not on the dark web. Things that are publicly available about you, your birth date, your gender, your zip code. Okay. With those three pieces of information, you can get a 3, 4, 5 nines match depending on the size of your zip code in the United States. Proof of identity. Okay. Now they don't get your name, they don't have your password, but they can prove it's you, nobody else but you, and only you. And so then they can say, great, with that adjacent information kind of a perspective, now they can prove here's a full list of highly, 5 nines identifier that this is an individual, and then they can start adding in the rest of the pieces. It's simply it's just a data exchange attack to identify more and more information about you before they even get to the dark web. This is stuff that's free and publicly available.
Yeah. And really quickly, the tool to check what's leaked about you on the dark web, you don't have to pay for it. You don't have to create an account. You can use just the free version to see what's out there and then figure it out yourself. But it's called Pen Tester, PENTESTER, pentester.com. And I'm gonna pin it up there. I have it in one of the articles, so you make sure you go to the right link. I'm gonna pin it up there to the top. But Pen Tester lets you pop in any variable, let's say your email address, and see all the data that's been leaked tied to your email. It could be usernames, passwords, email, other email addresses. It could be your phone number, your physical address, right? So if that information is sitting out there on the dark web and you're seeing it, that means everyone else could see it too. So a lot of times when I help people figure this out for them, I show them what's leaked out there. They see passwords that they're still using right now on accounts that are important to them. Take the 2 seconds to change your password. Like, it's not hard to be secure, guys. I'm not telling you to go out and buy $1,000 firewalls. I'm not telling you to go out and spend days climbing up a mountain so that you could press the right button. I'm telling you easy wins. I put them all up there in a single thread. Just execute it.
Should you not use, like, let's say you have an email, you have an email or you have a phone number and you find it's been compromised, should you even just not use that anymore and start up fresh? Or at what point do you say, you know what, it's not worth it. I'm just going to get a new email, and I'm going to, because I mean, we get so entrenched with Google in terms of all the various things, and then your phone, and then if you can't get to this, to that, to the other thing, it can be a real too much. But it's better to go through that when you have control of it than when you don't,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, like think about this. Think about all the accounts you created since you made your first email address. It's probably
Most,
hundreds.
most people don't. I mean, I'm speaking for. Okay, I've gone through this. I'm the guinea pig. I'm the one to watch. Okay, I s- I just ran through mine on Pen Tester. I found like 6 or 7. I forgot I even signed up for. So if you may not even remember all the places that you've signed up for, or that you've connected to, or had anything to do with. You won't remember. And my list is 2,000 deep. And literally in 5 minutes of using Pen Tester, I found more stuff that I didn't even
Yep,
remember.
yep. That's what I'm talking about. But here's the thing, like if you just sit there and figure it out, you can set it up in such a way moving forward that it's done the right way. So a lot of times I see people that have like, their mailbox has 50,000 unread messages, and every single day 1,000 new spam messages come in, and every day they're sitting there like deleting things and unsubscribing and marking them. You're already past the point of it being practical, guys. It's not worth it. So the way out of that mess, okay, just hear me out. The way out of the mess, you create a fresh new account and you set up things that are actually important to you to that account. Just that's what you use moving forward. Because your whole life, you probably gave your email to a million different places. You probably were at CVS and at Macy's, and they're, what's your email address? And you gave it to them back in 2013, and their whole list got leaked. And like you gave away your information everywhere. I'm sure every account you set up where they're asking you for your age, they're asking you for, personal information. You don't have to give it to them, guys. You don't have to give all these third parties, all these institutions your information in order to actually use 99% of their services. And this is why, at the same time, crypto and blockchain is so important. Because if we think about the way that these services will work in the future, they're going to leverage blockchain technology in order to reduce the amount of resources that they need to operate. For example, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of these social networks have data centers, millions of computers, IT teams, security, buildings with electricity running all day long. Like there's so many resources tied to storing information, to storing usernames and passwords and emails and all these things. But in the future, they're actually going to leverage blockchain for verification, and they won't need to hold your username, email, and password. In the future, you're not going to be uploading your photos and videos to some third-party server where now you don't even own your own information. You're going to own your own information as a token in your own wallet that only you have access to and can give access to for the sake of using an application in a very strict way where they don't need to know everything about you in order for you to use it. And that's why I went back in the beginning. I said it's the logical evolution of not only currency but the way that information and credentials and verification will work. Now we're nowhere near that right now. It's going to take decades to get there. But the thing is we're working within the confines of what we have right now, and it's really important to figure out your data scatter. Okay, like I said, you probably have accounts you don't even remember, like you said, right? There's accounts you've created that you forgot about because you're already in the point of having thousands of accounts. But you really got to sit down one day and purge anything that you're not actively using. There might be, for example, people have used Dropbox or Google Drive or OneDrive at some point. You probably installed it on one of your devices at some point. And with Web2 mentality, you hit next, agree, allow, continue, proceed, just to use the application. And you didn't realize how much you were giving away. You didn't realize that it asked you if you wanted to make a backup of your entire computer to their Drive account, and you hit yes, and all of your data is now sitting on their server, but you haven't even logged into that account with a weak password you made a decade ago. So it's a sitting duck as far as someone getting into your stuff and tapping into all your data. Like, think about all the accounts you've created and purge things that you don't actively need, and go into these accounts and remove data points that just don't need to be there, that are optional, that you don't have to be giving away all your information for. And back to this concept of having an email with 50,000 unread messages and it being cumbersome to look through every day. Look, if you have that fresh account and you have this mentality moving forward, you know not to give your email out to everywhere under the sun. You know that the things that are important to you are going to that email, and you don't have to sift through a bunch of garbage every single day. Guys, like we're talking about this stuff and we're a little technical. I'm sure a lot of people on this space are technical, but our parents most likely are not. And they find their devices annoying to use. Of course, it's annoying to use if you have pages and pages of apps that you haven't used in months sitting there running in the background, killing battery life, giving you 5 million notifications that you have to sift through. Like, of course, it's going to be annoying. But if we set up the devices the right way, we could be so much more productive and at the same time, 1,000 times more secure. Because when something goes wrong, let's say a new application pops up out of nowhere, you'll actually notice it, as opposed to a million notifications and you don't know what's real or what's not. Giving this a real life example, imagine you walked into your home tomorrow and there's a brand new couch in the living room. Are you going to question how the couch got there, or are you going to continue just living your life around that random couch that you don't even know who put it there? Think of your devices as the same way. Your devices are your home, and I have my home very organized and locked down. I know that was a lot. So
I mean, you know, this is super important. And so, like, I have looked into unstoppable domains, and is there going to be a time when Web3 is searchable? I'm an artist, I'm a writer, I have things that I would like to archive forever in a place that I don't have to think about. And like, what's the process for people? I mean, is that the true future? Is the true future connecting your creative output, whatever that may be, to something that's archived that is going to find some potential value later down the road? Do we need to care about this? Does it matter? Your thoughts?
I think it does matter in terms of decentralizing hosting and these central providers of like Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, because there are decentralized data storage services. For example, Arweave. Arweave is a really great. I mean, I've used it myself. It's a really great interface and way for you to host data in a decentralized manner, where you also could join the network and become a node and help the network run without having to expose anything when it comes to security. And this is, again, going back to why blockchain and crypto is so important. Think about all these levels of centralization in the services that we're using today. So even with your cell phone, right? Like, it's connecting to cell phone towers. So these towers, when something goes wrong at the tower or there's a storm, and there could be some downtime. But imagine, instead of there being a centralized point of a tower where everything is being bounced off of, everyone's device is a node that's bouncing information off each other. And even if 1,000 devices turn off, nodes still exist. Anything that is a device is actually helping to make sure that the network operates and maintains stability, because there's not one point of failure. That's what's so important.
Can you
That's how the AirTags work, right? That's how Apple
they use
AirTags work.
local. They use local, like Bluetooth and
Local
Wi-Fi,
Bluetooth
bounce that
connectivity.
information off.
Yeah.
Can you put something in the
Hey,
purple
John,
pill?
real quick.
Oh.
Hey, John, real quick. I'm gonna have to drop off. But first of all, thank you, Michael. Everybody, make sure you follow Michael. Make sure you read that article. Go to Pentester, put in your thing, find your stuff, and then Michael, I'm gonna ask in advance if you could please help us as you go forward in today, and then if you could come back again. First of all, it's great to tell, here's how the problems are. Here's some, Andy had a problem with this. Let's use that to help him, and then help everybody else do their parts. And then if we could figure out first of all, level 1 basics that you need to do for every single person, that right now they could do between now and next Friday, that they could go make happen. And then if we come back maybe next Friday, if you're available, and help us go to level 2, and so then we can
that sounds good.
start. I mean, first of all, I can't even tell you how much you've helped me, and I want to thank you personally. Thank everybody, and I do have to run. Thanks again. You guys have a fantastic week. John, back to you. Make sure you follow everybody. Follow the AI Biz Hour. Go to our website. Sign up for the newsletters. All of those things. Thanks again. Take care. Later. Bye.
Thank you, Andy. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. If you want to put in the purple pill, kind of like a level 1 checklist.
Yeah, let's literally do
And
this. Level 1 checklist is the ultimate security thread up top. I want everybody that's in this
okay,
space to execute on what's on that thread. And next week, let's follow up. Let's see if people actually did something and what they found, because I'm sure people are going to find some crazy stuff.
I mean, I'm doing it as this is going on, so it's kind of exciting. And then what I would love to do too is if you could, like, I want to get what is the reality and what are your thoughts in terms of centralization, decentralization? If everybody, like, the only way you change the world is you got to change yourself. I'm sorry, that's, you can't force the people to be different around you. You got to go internally, and then the world looks like a different place. So,
Yeah.
like, what do we need to do to bring us to this vision of a decentralized world where we're nodes that we can control our information, we can control our data? Because I think that's a much better experience than the data overlords. And maybe we could do a series where we could creep our audience towards that. And with more groups of people doing that throughout the world, maybe the realization, because that's the thing that I find problems with, like, unstoppable domain and Web3, is it's not searchable. How do you get, unless you know about it, how do you get to it? How do you use it? How do you make it useful? What's the whole point, And then you have these things where you get these meme coins and all this other stuff, and there's just garbage, and there's POS people involved in certain things. And I think that's part of the point of it. You put a total worthless pile of whatever adjacent to somebody who's trying to do good, and then you totally discard, then their reputation turns to trash as well. So, like, how, I would just love to know your
Yeah.
thoughts on it, because it sounds like this is something that interests you a lot and you've been involved in it.
Yeah. So, when I first got into crypto and blockchain, like I was like DeFi maxi. I was like, everything needs to be decentralized. There can't be any middlemen. Like we can all do this together. We could just like move directly within each other. But it's not practical, at least yet, right? Like it is definitely not practical in the current state of things. You need elements of centralization in order for mass adoption to occur to begin with. And I think that there's actually a few things that we're cooking up at MetaMask. I don't know if you heard, but we recently launched the MetaMask card. It lets you use your on-chain self-custodied crypto anywhere you could use MasterCard, which is like over 150 million merchants worldwide. And you get up to 11% back on every transaction. And you're your own bank and you earn automatic yield on your money sitting in your own bank. So think about it, like, what's the point of a bank account? Your money sitting in the bank is not giving you anything, right? Like if anything, it's giving you like 0.07%, which is like pennies, right? Like you're not getting anything for your money's not your money sitting in the bank, right? So um, think about that. Like the ability for us to have an answer for people that are saying, well, where can I use my crypto? Like, why would I want it? Well, now you could use it anywhere and you get rewarded for doing so. So the fact that you can have a company that's paying you in crypto and then be able to earn yield being your own bank and then earn the benefits, way more rewards than a credit card would on something that feels like a debit account because it's your own. I mean, we have to come up with these ways to work with existing systems so that we don't have to change anything in order for people that are already in crypto and vice versa to be able to work with each other. We didn't have to go to merchants and say, you got to start accepting crypto. We have a bridge in between that's handling that for both the user and the merchant. So we're meeting everybody where they're at. And I think as these solutions start to come into play and you kind of make less friction in between businesses and try to get them to understand the benefits of using crypto or blockchain in some capacity, then we're going to get to a point where we're getting closer to decentralization being a majority as opposed to being mitigated downward because there's so much centralization. So we have to take these elements of centralization, learn how to work with them, and then that's how we could scale properly in a practical way, right? Like, how do we get people to use crypto and blockchain without even knowing they're using crypto and blockchain, but in the background it's benefiting everybody? So that's kind of my outlook on that. I mean, I could talk for hours on, what my vision of the future is when it comes to how this is going to work, and I would love to. I did have a hard stop at 4, but again, just keeping it in the conversation, and really loved being on the space and you guys letting me just rant.
That's awesome. And I'm on Pacific time. I don't know if you're on Eastern time, so you could let me know what that is. But yeah, it's I think that I'm so happy that you're with MetaMask. It's a great company, and to have someone like you at MetaMask brings hope for those spaces. David, and then Timo. You have a question, David?
Hey, thanks. Well, I was gonna, I guess, give some people my suggestion of how they can start.
Hold it, David. How they
Sure.
can how they can start what? Do you understand what are you talking about?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So based on by the way, I'm a FreeBSD contributor. You can Google me. It's it's easy to verify me. But yeah, I guess the best way to say it is how to make using your computer suck less and to be less vulnerable.
Okay, cool.
Including your phone.
I thought you were about to talk about some meme coin that people should buy. So
No,
okay.
in fact, I do not comment on crypto or centralization because that's not what I do for a living. I'm a FreeBSD contributor. So, but yeah, I'm happy to talk about what works and what I've been doing for the last 25 years. And so I think because I meet people myself that say what do you think I should do because they think that I know what I'm doing, and so I typically tell them a couple things that the other speaker already said. So there's something that's kind of like a USB key, and there's there's like a name for it, and there's like multiple standards. So the standard, one of the standards is called FIDO, FIDO, and then there's like FIDO 2, but that's just what the key can do. So I think if you're going to make an investment, because this is what I tell everyone, and I literally have like a dozen of these things like on a keychain. Yeah, it's annoying, but I have to, reduce risk. And yeah, I literally have like a dozen of these like on a keychain. So they're called YubiKeys. YubiKeys are or Yubico, I believe, is probably the best. They're not the only manufacturer, but they're probably I think the best manufacturer of what we'll call second factor hardware devices. So yeah, it looks kind of like a thumb drive, and yeah, it can do something called FIDO. Again, it can do a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, that one of the things, like for example, Twitter. One of the first things I did with Twitter is since I use Twitter on my phone, I turned off SMS authentication for second factor, and I turned on U2F or yeah, I think they call it U2F. Yeah, so it's basically FIDO. And I have like one of my keys does NFC, so it's like USB A and it does NFC. And like when I log in at Twitter, I literally tap it to the back of my phone, like tap to purchase or whatever.
David, I'm
sure.
sorry to interrupt you for 1 minute. Michael is our guest. Michael, are you following this? I have no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah, so what he's talking about is a method of two-factor authentication that's just a lot stronger than using your phone number, of course, but also a lot stronger than using Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, a form of software. So I like to really recommend for 99% of people to use not your phone as a two-factor method, but at least the software method like Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator. Now, what's being spoken about is related to a hardware authenticator, which is something that's a physical device that you need in order to perform that same function. So it's a little more technical. It does require a physical component, but I don't recommend it for most people because it's just adding a lot of layers of friction, and people don't even understand two-factor authentication to begin with. So I think it's like a natural evolution. You'll eventually get to the point of understanding what a hardware key is, like a YubiKey or Yubico, David was referring to. But I try to really keep it like simple. Like let's start off with like not using your phone, and
So,
yeah.
if you had a massive amount of Bitcoin and you had a hard wallet, but you had to travel and do some things, you might want to have what David's suggesting. But otherwise, your average
I,
person
I,
wouldn't need
I
it.
I wanted to give you a specific reason why as well. Okay, so if you use a, whether or not it's FIDO or TOTP or whatever, like whatever
Yeah,
it's
David, I don't
doing,
I don't I don't think a
sure.
lot of people are gonna understand like the
Yeah,
term.
yeah,
Yeah.
I understand, but yeah, I'm gonna explain the value here. So, yeah, so if you go somewhere and let's say you like have something on your phone that's encrypted, and like you're asked to de-encrypt it, you won't be able to. Like in fact, someone like if someone puts a gun to your head, you can smash it with a rock. Um, like I'm not saying that your information's worth
David,
that much. Go ahead.
before we go there, what would be a practical use case for this? I mean, besides being some underworld spy or a huge corporate guy that has secrets that he doesn't want.
John, I think that the practical use case is that it is the ultimate level of security for anything that you're doing. But it's not practical for 99. Like I wouldn't be using a hardware YubiKey to sign into some random shopping account I'm using because it's just too much friction for me, and it would be a lot of friction for other people.
If I was able to tokenize my real estate portfolio and I wanted to travel and maybe deal with some people that I was going to give a subfraction of it to, then I would have this solution,
This
correct?
solution, this solution would be part of your security stack on top of something David actually mentioned, which was your device being encrypted. Really quickly, I just want to explain this very quickly because a lot of people have like external hard drives, for example. What if someone steals your external hard drive? If you can plug it into any computer and see your stuff, so can they. But if the external hard drive was encrypted, even if it were stolen, they would still need the decryption key, which is simply like a password in this scenario of software on an external hard drive, in order to get into your stuff. A lot of people that have a lot of PCs out of the box, the drive is not encrypted. So if someone steals your laptop, they can pull the drive out or boot into their own environment and just freely look at all of the files that are sitting on your device in your documents folder on your desktop. So this is where encryption plays such a big role in the security stack, because we want to start off somewhere, which is like an antivirus, things that people are familiar with, but we're going to get to the granular parts of security, which is encryption. That's super important, and David, really appreciate you bringing it up, because
Yeah, and
yeah.
wanted to make another argument. Okay, so yeah, 10 years ago, yeah, I literally had to program like the TOTP, right? Yeah, but like modern, FIDO keys like Yubico, yeah, you literally like when you need to authenticate, it has like like basically a piece on it that will light up, and you literally touch it, like it's capacitive. That's how you lock. Yeah, so there's no like, there's you mentioned the convenience factor. So having to read, yeah, having to be able to read. So by the way, this is something that will affect your ability to drive or fly. being able to wait like for a 15-second window for a 6-digit number and then read it, and then being able to like take that same number and input it somewhere else. Yeah, it's like I think that that is much less convenient than
Well, there's
um,
so an argument to that. There is a
and David, I don't mean to be rude or anything, but I'm just trying to. I'm thinking of my audience, and I know that my audience is all over the place and varied, and so to kind of get to the meat of the matter in terms of what's relevant for them, that's kind of why I've been interrupting a little bit. And then also Michael is our guest, so I don't want to kind of veer the topic too far away from Michael at this time because he's taken his time out to be our guest, and we really appreciate
No, I
it.
really appreciate David and the conversation. I would love to go into a highly technical conversation on a separate space, David. I think we would have a really great conversation. But when it comes down to like that 15-second window, there is a slight buffer, and I'm just saying in terms of convenience, because you would have to physically have the key with you, and if you lost it and you're out and about, let's say John's in Cali and he's making a deal and he's not necessarily in the mind space because he just got off a plane and where's his UB key and he forgot it. Now he can't even get into his accounts to do what he needs to do unless he has a secure way of keeping the backup key somewhere on him as well. But again, there's like a slider in my head, right? Like security over convenience, convenience over security. For 99% of people, I don't think a YubiKey is going to be a solution that they're going to be okay with doing because they don't even have software two-factor yet. We got
Yeah,
to get them. Yeah.
and I have people that are so over the moon about crypto, but I have to have the weight of the if you have any type of substantial assets and you're taking the total responsibility to control those assets, to move the assets, to have the security or whatever, what do you like? How do you plan for if you get in a car accident and you're unconscious for a month? There's a lot of things that come with it where if you start to go down the rabbit hole of various things that can happen, and then can you trust the people around you to do the right thing if something happens? What if
Yeah.
there's a huge there was a giant sun flare in 18 something late 1800s that basically melted the telegraph wires. I mean, there are things that can happen because of the sun and various waves and energy that go through space that could disrupt things. So the idea that people are like, oh, well, this is done and it's taken care of. I'm constantly the contrarian that are just like, there's things that could happen where this thing that you're sure is like the greatest thing since sliced bread might be problematic.
John,
So
I wish we could like pause time and just talk forever. You know what I'm saying? Like, because like we could have just amazing conversations because we're starting off in like such a niche area of like security. But then, yeah, you start thinking about, well, what happens if something happens to you? Like, is your family or people you trust going to have access to your stuff? Or, do crypto insurance policies even exist? Right. Like, and they do. And there are solutions and I wish we could just like sit here and talk all like I wish we could, bro. Like, but we should definitely. I will try my best to hop on.
Timo has his hand up, and we're going to have you back again because I think that we all want to go down these rabbit holes because this audience is all about AI, is in the middle of AI, works with AI, and so we are all looking at the future. And I think that all these levels of conversation we should have at some point because there's going to be a lot of value for this audience. And I really appreciate you saying that. Yeah, maybe we will be able to move over to a parallel dimension sooner than later and stop time and talk for a couple of eons and then come back. But I'm going to get to Timo and then Juan Carlos. And please keep the questions directed towards Michael.
All right. Thanks, John. And yeah, Michael, nice to meet you. Gave you a follow, obviously, a fellow security person. Always good to connect. Love the way you're able to put these things into layman terms. Like you said, like maybe 2% of the people are going to take action on your thread, but those who will be winners. I dropped a book link to a book called If It's Smart, It's Vulnerable. It's by Mikko Hyppönen, who is one of the founders of F-Secure, which is a Finnish company here in Finland. And it's a brilliant book. Like, your light bulb is connected into, and your toaster is connected into, and your washing machine is connected into internet. And those IoTs, they're just like sitting ducks waiting to be taken over and getting access to a network and so on and so on. But to the question, I do work for the government here, and I'm part of the purple team, even though I'm a software project manager as my main work. But yeah, humans are the worst, and we do a lot of all kinds of pen testing here on our own organization, physical and digital. And the one of the tools that I've been also recommending is Have I Been Pawned, and it's a good way to quickly check your emails. But Pentester is obviously by the infamous 0 day, so it's an epic tool and easy to use. So definitely, you're totally correct on that. Um, I would also, for the newbies to get involved into security, uh, listen to the Dark Web Diaries. It's a layman terms, very like a story. We are storytellers, so those stories are amazing to listen to, and you learn a lot about like how easy it is to gain access to your systems and whatnot. Social engineering podcasts and whatnot. So it's amazing. So my question is, I hope it's not going to be in the very too much into technical terms, but since you're in the Web3 space, and I'm the graybeard Gen Xer, grew up with no internet and being around since defacing AOL was fun.
Bro, I
Uh,
was around, Timo. What do you mean? I was around.
yeah, yeah, but I mean, some of
I know.
our
I'm playing. I'm
people
playing.
on the audience are not. So, just the fact that I apologize for the EU, but the NIS2 is now enforced, and it's interesting. Is Web3 kind of flying under the radar of NIS2 because as it is, who's liable when there's like no clear operator because the operators are individuals actually on Web3,
Yeah.
or am I getting something wrong?
Yeah. Yeah. So this is actually a really great topic because I think that a lot of the people that are being onboarded into crypto are not being told what's happening. Right? People are being onboarded into crypto. Like 99% of people are being onboarded into crypto under the pretense that you're going to 1000x and you're going to make a ton of money, and then you're going to, I guess, turn your fake. You're going to turn your immutable crypto back into fake printed monopoly fiat currency. Yeah, that's a great job, guys. But the concept is that they're not being onboarded under the pretense of what is blockchain, what is the purpose of decentralization, and also self custody. Like the feeling of knowing that you actually own something and it's 100% yours, and no one can take it from you unless you compromise yourself, right? Like you're the attack variable. So I think when I'm onboarding anyone into crypto, I'm not even talking about crypto to begin with at all. I'm just talking about things that they're already familiar with, like going to a restaurant and having to pay a bill. I'm sure everyone in the world's done that at this point. So you're familiar with, or you're okay with the process that currently happens, which is you have your debit card or your credit card, and that's made by Visa or MasterCard, which is one institution. You have your money sitting inside of a bank like Chase or Bank of America, and that's another institution. And technically, your money is not your money. They're making money on your money, which is a thing, but they're not giving you nearly anything for it. Then they are swiping your card through a point of sale system, which is another institution. Then there's a merchant service provider, which is selling the business the point of sale system and also the equipment so that they can process the transactions, which is another institution. Then there's ramps in between, which is why it takes 3 to 5 days for money to go from one account to another, which are more institutions. And then there's the business's bank account, which might be different than your bank. So that's another institution. So that's what everyone's okay with. And that's not confusing. But because of the way they've been told about crypto, crypto is confusing. But have you ever been told in the concept where you go to the same restaurant, you are your own bank, the business is its own bank, and the money goes from you to the business within seconds, and there aren't 10 middlemen. And you don't need credit card companies and point of sale systems and merchant service providers and wait times and the ramps in between. Like, you have to change the mindset of what people are comfortable with now and the fact that there's so many people in between what you're doing that are actually killing a lot of the structure. Credit card fees, point of sales fees, merchant service fees, terminal fees, they affect businesses' bottom line. A lot of businesses are actually passing the fees off to the customer now. You might see it on a receipt where it says, convenience fee, convenience charge. That's helping them pay for a system that they unfortunately don't know any other system to use, right? Because and it's also tied to a contract. But again, it's a mentality shift. If they understood that they can create a address on chain and they could just start accepting crypto right now, and they didn't need to sign a lease agreement for a terminal, they didn't need to sign up with a merchant service provider. Like, technically they don't even need electricity or hardware. They can just have a QR code pasted on a piece of paper, and if I want to come in and pay your business, I'm paying you directly, and there's nothing in between us. Now, what's missing is some of the levels of protection in between, which is where centralization comes in when we're talking about the current setup of how businesses operate. You need to have a way for users to not only be able to protect themselves, but let's pretend there's a malicious transaction and you're in a decentralized space as opposed to a space where you could perform a chargeback, where you could just call your credit card company and say, hey, something fraudulent happened, and they just put the money back in your account. So this is why something that I just mentioned to John before, there are solutions. There are crypto insurance services. Shout out to Fairside. They're doing amazing work in the space for crypto insurance policies because look, there's a lot of barriers when people are trying to onboard people into crypto, right? One of them is, where can I actually spend my crypto? What can I do with it? Well, with the MetaMask card, you could use it anywhere. And what happens if I mess up? Well, there's crypto insurance policy through Fairside. So these things are coming, or they're already here, but we just need to make them better. And I think it goes back to my point of, I'm happy mass adoption didn't happen quickly because people would not understand the concept of being their own bank and the fact that no one can help you in its current state if something were to go wrong, which is also why anyone that wants to dip their toes into crypto, let's say you got a friend or a family member that wants to, don't go down the route of teaching them about self-custody and managing their keys and all these things if they just want to throw $100 into it. Just have them set up a centralized exchange account so there's not a lot of questions and liabilities that pop up and them having to worry about security, right? It's a lot safer that way. And then they'll start to dip their toes in further and then realize, hey, this is what crypto is. Now I understand what I'm buying. Now I know that I'm dealing with real people or a real company, as opposed to at the end of the day sitting there with a bag full of NFTs and tokens that you yourself don't understand and you don't like and you can't sell. And then you're looking at the space and calling it a scam. Those are the two differences. How do we onboard people? And 99% are unfortunately not being onboarded the right way. I hope that makes sense, Timo.
Yeah, it does. Thanks for the explanation. But yeah, it's just the unfortunate bureaucracy here in EU, and yeah, just like thinking about MetaMask or Crypto.com or whatever, any of the exchanges actually, like when it comes to NIS2, where the liability is on the provider and the company. So now when you're as an individual the liability, then you're not kind of part of the NIS2. So it's an interesting situation. But yeah, thanks for the explanation.
Appreciate the question, man. Just followed you back as well.
Yes, I highly recommend everybody please follow Michael. He's taking his time out today. He's obviously knowledgeable. He's working for very reputable companies. And please follow him, follow myself, follow Andy. Go to my account and join my newsletter. What I do is I take transcripts of each of these shows and I put them out on the newsletter. And so it's you get it while it's free. We got great people that come on here, and it's always really relevant information. It's actionable information. That's what we care about. We care about information that you can act on and do things and that matter to your day-to-day life. Juan Carlos, I see you got your hand up, and then we'll go to Tezel.
Teasel.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hey, Michael, I appreciate you being here. I have three questions for you. They're all really short and small and really related to each other. I'm Bitcoin only, so I like cold card. I'm curious if you recommend anything else when it comes to non-Bitcoin only in terms of like what your standard would be. And then obviously you're a fan of MetaMask naturally, but is there another one that you would recommend, such as like Blue Wallet or Electrum? Those are kind of like a two-part question there. And then I was curious on your take of the new and upcoming narrative of coin everything from the security perspective.
Yeah, great questions. So when it comes to Bitcoin and even other networks, multi-chain, I actually got some alpha to drop. We are launching Solana and Bitcoin support inside of MetaMask, and this is coming very soon. This is also tied to our UI and UX revamp. We're doing a complete revamp of the UI UX and also a performance overhaul. So a lot of the things that on the front-facing side users have been waiting for, but again, it's a 9-year-old code base, and for us to make changes and go multi-chain did take a lot of work, considering every layer of the stack, as I mentioned before, is focused around being privacy preserving, security oriented. So I'm comfortable with at a software level, at a software wallet level, putting my seed phrases and private keys into MetaMask. That's me, because not only do I work there, sure, but even prior to working there, it's open source. I'm able to verify everything in the code base, the GitHub. It's transparent. There's things in MetaMask that other wallets just don't let you do. For example, opt out of data usage and metrics submission. You have the ability to turn that off. We actually ask you during the onboarding process. And the thing is, some wallets don't even let you do that. So when it comes to hardware wallets, though, and managing your assets, I do recommend a Ledger or a Trezor. And the reason why I also recommend it, if you have a lot of high value items, this is something that a lot of people don't know. On a ledger or a Trezor, you could add a 25th word to your seed phrase. The 25th word is a word that you create yourself. So even if someone were to find your entire seed phrase written on a piece of paper, they would still need that 25th word in order to get into your Bitcoin wallet and whatever else you have on the ledger. So there's a lot of little bits of alpha, and that's why I'm saying, like, if we had the ability to like pause time and just talk forever in the space, I would so do it, bro. But yeah, that's as far as like the Bitcoin and the wallet recommendation sort of things. When it comes to like Deepin, RWA, it's a really upcoming sector. It's like the next big thing where all there's cycles, right? People talked about the metaverse, and then they're talking about AI, and now it's like Deepin and RWAs. So it's a cycle, but let's see if the cycle sticks. I think there are real utilities, real use cases where a lot of this could actually help manufacturing industry and also logistics and shipping and different types of deliverables, especially for companies that have really set limits on items that they have, and ways to verify that that item got to where it was supposed to be going, or that the person owns the real item. So I think there's utility in it. I think that there's definitely use case in it. It's just a matter of how it's pulled off. The same thing with NFTs, right? So a lot of people in public think that NFTs are a scam, but at the end of the day, they're just a way to verify that you actually own something. There's people that are actually using NFTs for really interesting use cases, not just creating a 10K collection and then it goes to zero. Like, that's not what NFTs are about. So I think it's a matter of time at this point, and there are definitely ways that the technology could really change a bunch of different industries.
I'm tokenizing some planets that I'm naming, so I think that's something we should all look at.
Let's
That's just
go.
that's kind of a joke. Alex was here and had their hand booted, And but I should start to look into that, see if I can tokenize some real estate on one of the moons of Jupiter or something. Alex, how are you today?
I'm doing well. X has not been my friend lately. There's just so many scams going on that, and also the engineering has been failing. I don't know if anybody else has been having this problem, but it's just like both of them together, or maybe one feeds the other. But man, it's been kind of a mess out there. I've had a back channel that's filled with like, that wasn't me that sent that message, and all sorts of stuff.
Alex, did you use MySpace back in the day?
I did not. I remember MySpace. I am old enough to remember MySpace, and Friendster.
Yeah, yeah. No, the reason why I was bringing up MySpace was because eventually it turned into just like errors everywhere. Like a MySpace error has occurred, like when you would click on anything. So I definitely feel you, especially on the DM side of things. I don't know about you, but DMs are the buggiest thing on X in the entire planet. I cannot.
It's the worst. I agree. Sorry.
No, no,
I
yeah,
didn't
just
mean to
wanted
interrupt
to.
you.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just agreeing.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I just wanted to bring that up about MySpace because it's like that's what it's reminding me of. It's like slowly falling apart until either they just scrape it. I heard there's like a new X chat application coming, which I hope is just at least built into this application and I don't have to have it separate. But yeah,
I think we could call it the Doge effect, just because there hasn't been a lot of attention
yeah.
from the end.
A
But
100%. I mean, the biggest problem that we're having right now is that so first of all, third party apps on here always get like the stepsister treatment, right? Because like, they're always like, no, third parties don't get like the 100% API integration or anything like that, which they used to back when it was Twitter. You could actually have a third party integration and it would actually work. Like, like you may or may not use it, but it was like, okay, well, let's see if this thing can actually integrate and whatever. And maybe they were dumb as hell, but it was like, well, but we could actually try and see if this works. This one, there's like the internal X integration, and then there's the external X integration, and the external X integration is like the janky one. So I'm like never really that optimistic anymore about external applications that are developed. But there's like one guy that comes in, it reminds me of like Binance US, where it was like, real Binance was like actual people that were working there, and Binance US was like one janitor that came in every other Wednesday and then like admitted people like their wallets. And it was like there was like nobody there, but the real Binance had actual like working people. Like that's how I feel like X is right now. X is kind of like, there's like four guys that are there and they're like frantically working on like 2,000 screens. They're like, nobody go to the bathroom. So I don't think that a lot is getting covered right now. And so right now, the biggest scam that's going around is one that's basically passing around an exploit on Chrome. And anything that takes an invitation, like everybody don't click links and stuff. But what's really hard is that you're meeting people on X and they want to talk to you, and almost always it's not on X. So you're going to have to go to another platform, and a lot of those platforms are legitimate platforms, but they're just connecting with you in an illegitimate way. So security is a huge, huge, huge issue. And so my last week was basically a bunch of people who got emails from a lookalike account of mine, and I was like, that was not mine. And other people saying that their accounts were basically seized and other things like that. So for anybody else who's going through that garbage, man, I feel you. And anyway, that was not what I wanted to talk about. but anyway, oh, this is what we live through right now. But I loved what you were saying earlier about how we actually approach this. How do we integrate people? And I think people are starting to see that just flashing this idea of like, look, assets that increase that you get access to, that is not a great way to bring people in a lot of different ways. There's there for a lot of reasons, right? And one is that the trying to, first of all, explain blockchain, which is super complex and has a really unique form of asset, which is a shifting asset that Congress doesn't understand, right? They're still trying to shove our regulatory system, which is based on things that stay the same, right? Assets that remain the same type of asset from its inception to its death, right? Like stocks and debt and fiat, those assets stay the same its entire lifetime. Tokens change depending on what the user wants. They can be different things, like the same asset, a token can be 7 different things, right? It can be all sorts of different things. It can change between holders. It can change over time. Most of the time, you have no idea what you did with a token until an accountant applies a local accounting method after you sold it. So it's a crazy asset. It's really hard to explain to laymen, right, who haven't immersed themselves in it. And really, it's a back end method, right? It's like explaining Ruby on Rails to people. Why would you even do that if you're not in that system, right? It's like explaining the backbone of the internet, right? You don't really need to explain a lot of this stuff to them. It's not really related to most of what people are experiencing in their day-to-day life. And so it's really hard for people to relate to the tokens that trade on them as assets. No one can really understand because they don't understand the payment rails. You know who understands a lot of those payment rails? Big companies like Visa and other companies that are adopting them. They're the ones who are grabbing on and using those and understand their value as both utility and asset. But that's not retail adoption, right? For retail to really understand this stuff, they have to look at it at a level of what they understand. And I think stable coins are the way, because that's something that they
Let's
actually
go. Thank
understand.
God. I'm so happy that that led to stable coins. Like stable coins are the alpha, Alex, and no
I'm
one's
telling
no
you.
one's talking about it.
Yeah, and that this is something that I think we really have to look at as, look, you understand money, right? You understand that money can go up and down in value. Money can buy more things sometimes and less things depending on how your economic policy is, or if you're tied to some other country's economic policy. We can have stable coins, a whole bunch of different types. They don't have to be tied to fiat. In fact, they shouldn't be. So we can have separate stable coins, and those stable coins will allow economies all sorts of different efficiencies, and the ability to be creative and use their assets. Right now, every single economy is tied in some way to the dollar, right? They're tied to our economy, and so they're mimicking in some way our economy, and that's terrible because most of them are not designed to be post-industrial knowledge-based economies. They're not set up to do that. That's not their asset class. So they should be doing other things, but they can't because they're tied to the dollar. So they don't have any safety net. They have no way of breaking free really, but they would if we had a separate rail of stable coins. And that is where this entire economic system comes in. And I think this is where people can start understanding like what this would be. Like Bitcoin is almost a little too esoteric for a lot of people. But understanding this idea of an alternate money, not Bitcoin, which is still an asset, right? It's a volatile asset, but something that tries to maintain its value, just like fiat does, and competes for you, right? Does all sorts of things. It can do all sorts of things, just like banks do. Banks take your money and then they make money with it. Well, what if you could do that with stable coins? You can take stable coins and you can make money with them, because no money should sit, right? Because it doesn't make any money that way. All of your money should always be working for you. We
I,
can actually make an entirely new system with that, right? And that's something that I think people can start understanding, that look, if we have two separate systems, then you won't have to fight for banks to recognize that your money that they should share profits with you, right? Because right now they don't. Unless you have enough money, they take your money, they make money, and then they charge you for the use of your money.
Alex, are you from? Do you know Michael? And Michael, do you know Alex?
No, we don't, but it's
No,
lovely to meet you.
yeah, same here.
So Michael works with security for MetaMask. And Mike, can you give kind of a rundown of your career for 1 minute? And he's
Yeah,
our guest today, and so we were talking a bit about security. We moved over to crypto, but just because I think the two of you could have an interesting conversation.
yeah, definitely. No, great to connect, Alex. I just sent you a follow. I actually pinned it up to the top because it's something that you're talking about right now. The MetaMask card is just this bridge that lets people use their crypto in real life without having to deal with banks or exchanges or wait times or fees. You actually get rewards in stablecoin just for using the card and just for connecting your own self custody wallet to the card. And this is part of the conversation we were having before, which is elements of centralization in decentralization for the sake of mass adoption. So, something that Consensus, the company that I work for, does is they pay part of my payroll in crypto, and that crypto goes to an on-chain self-custodied wallet that I own. No one else owns it. I'm the one with access to it. And that wallet is connected to the MetaMask card, earning automatic yield on my crypto just sitting there up until the point I swipe it. And when I swipe it, I get up to 11% back on every transaction. And this is all using stable coins because it's logical in the business environment to not have to deal with the asset that goes up and down extremely volatile rate on a daily or minute basis. Now we are going to get to the point where we're adding support for more coins, more networks, but the concept is that I'm pretty much living in the year 2035, debanked, using my crypto in real life and getting paid more than I am paying in fees to do it. So I think it's the ultimate alpha. Stable coins are something that a lot of people don't talk about, and the yield that you could earn, the rewards you could earn, and the fact that it's self-custodied and it's like having a bank account, except you are your own bank and you're making money on your money instead of the bank making money on your money, is such an amazing conversation to have when it comes to like, how do you onboard people and what do they actually use this tech for? It's to get rid of all those middlemen, and it's exactly what you were saying with stable coins.
Do you know what you earn your return on? Like, what are they doing to get you your 11%?
Yeah, so by default, the virtual card, which people could sign up for right now, they could add it to their Google or Apple Pay. That gives you automatically 1%. With the metal card that's the physical metal one that I posted up top, we're dropping that soon. That gives you 3%. And then there are community rewards that you can connect the card to, because communities within Linea, which is our own blockchain, for example, that's supported on the card, are able to tap into a Sybil resistant user base without having to know anything about the user. So, for example, if there's an airdrop that's going to be happening, or a community is looking for engagement, but that engagement doesn't, it needs to be real engagement so that they could give the airdrop to real people, or they could distribute rewards to real people for network activity. Now you're dealing with a Sybil resistant user base, so that almost 100% of the airdrop goes to not bots and farmers, which is generally what ends up happening 99% of the time with airdrops and people looking for just free money, but it goes to real users that are keeping that token and the network sustained because they are keeping it within the network, not exiting. Because now you're able to use your crypto in real life anywhere while you're earning rewards at the same time. Why would you exit, right? Like, why would you, it's just in theory, at the same time, the community or the people you're transacting with or the merchants you're using the card with don't have to know anything about you as far as you're on chain. It's There's no names, there's no emails, there's no user, there's no passwords, right? There's nothing tying any sort of public information to these transactions. So this is a great utility for any community, any rewards based system, anyone that's doing an airdrop, to be able to like tap into a user base of proven real users without having the users on the security and privacy side having to expose anything about themselves.
have you actually like segregated, and I'm sorry, I know I have so many questions. But have you segregated out your communities? Because there's like I mean, I see this as actually as a big wave in the future of people doing these like communities where it's basically monetizing these communities, which is, and the communities benefit because they're getting actually part of the monetization. They usually get the lion's share of the monetization of the community, of the work that they're doing. But have you actually segregated them out into like engineering communities, like, you know, dev communities versus like, like more simple engagement in terms of like, you know, viewing ads or things like that, or doing hunts or stuff like that, you know, in order to make transactions work on a chain, you know, actually engage in simple transactions to make the chain start, you know, like moving forward or stuff like that. There's, because one of the things that I've seen is engagements where, for example, when they're segregated out, when you've got like developer ones, because one of the things you can have like a developer, you know, faucet, for example, where they're getting some drops in order to make sure that they actually start using the chain. If they actually had this sort of more open community, you'd probably get more developers that could actually be engaged in multiple communities, but you'd get better rewards than these very isolated ones that you end up finding on what is that, Discord?
Yeah. So
Do you know what
what's
I'm saying?
interesting? Yeah, yeah. So what's interesting about that is the card gets very granular. And when I say granular, I mean to the point where you are specifying, for instance, token spend or the order of approvals. And what's also great is that it allows communities to be able to give rewards for specific things. So let's say there's a community, I don't know, something off the top of my head, like Clonex. And the only reason I'm saying Clonex is because I just saw it on the timeline and all the FUD around it. But Clonex is like, you know, working with Nike. And yeah, so you're laughing. So Clonex was working with
I,
Nike, right? So yeah, go ahead.
I was just reading that article. I know. I saw, and all the images and stuff and all the community notes that were like, that's not a
Yeah,
real picture. Right. I know.
yeah, it was really funny. But like as an example, working with like a real life community or a sector of payments, right? Let's say it's dining or shoes or whatever the case is. Now that community, instead of just giving away a free airdrop and then people just walking away with free money, they can actually incentivize it so that when users are using their MetaMask card at Nike, they get a 10% additional yield on top of their 11%. So they're getting 21% back on the transaction. And now it's incentivizing the sale. It's also making sure that the reward is given to something that has real tangible value, and that it's not being used as exit liquidity because it's being kept within the ecosystem of, oh, I just bought something directly associated with this project. Think about how many different ways that could go, right? Like even not even in terms of a company like Nike or a shopping place or whatever, but even in terms of, let's say, schools. Like let's say schools distribute a MetaMask card and kids get rewarded in points for like completing work or showing up to class on time, right? All these different ways to like even track attendance, that the students showed up for attendance, and now it's all, you know, on chain, and you know there are ways to keep it privacy preserving. And then now those kids could cash out those points towards new book bags, or like there's like a vending machine, and they're using it for, you know, extra snacks or whatever the case is. Like there's so many different ways to be able to now leverage the fact that you can interface with anything IRL with your crypto and also be able to earn rewards, things that banks would never be able to pull off,
Oh, so
essentially.
so Michael, this is kind of amazing. So can you incorporate that into any kind of app to gamify actions? In other
Yeah,
words,
well, that exactly, like that's the thing. It's you, if you have a, let's say, a rewards pool or a community, a liquidity pool that they have to tap, that they have available to tap into, or they were looking to do an airdrop anyway, whatever the case was. Even if the tokens are not like worth anything, let's say the school is giving the kids tokens that are not worth anything, but inside of the school's ecosystem they're worth something. So 300 school points goes towards a new book bag. It's within, internally, the school already owns the book bags. They're already distributing the points to the kids, and the kids are verifying that they got those points to get the book bag. But there was no even monetary involvement in that scenario. Like there's so many different ways to pull this off with different communities, different real life businesses, or even institutions.
I just had
because
a monster idea. I got to connect with you.
Yeah, no, shoot me a DM.
Yeah, hey, Michael, one question for the stable coins. Again, here in the EU, everything's so difficult, but do you have like a set of stable coins? Because, like, for instance, uh, probably the most famous one is like the USDT. It's not because it's not like non-compliant fiat-backed stablecoin. As far as I know, it's not permitted, but like USDC and EURC are allowed in the EU. So does the card support those?
Yeah, well,
Uh,
technically, to the merchant, when you're like, let's say you have USDT inside of your on-chain wallet that's connected to the MetaMask card, and you want to buy something that's worth, 100 USDT, but you're buying it in the EU, and the EU doesn't necessarily support it. The actual merchant that's receiving the funds is not receiving the funds in crypto. They're receiving it after it's been settled by banks, BAANX, which is the settlement layer after the submission of the transaction from Linea, which is RL2, which is why the gas fees are fractions of a penny as opposed to, like $10 in the middle of a busy day. Like that wouldn't be practical for payment solution. So, with the MetaMask card, you can actually use your on-chain USDT in the EU, and the EU is a supported region of the MetaMask card. So, again, these are ways to be able to use your crypto in real life without having to off ramp, without the wait times, without the fees, without the exchanges, without the banks. Like this is like a life hack at this point. That everyone's sleeping.
yeah, thanks thanks for finding a way to actually spook the EU stupidity. That's amazing.
I got you, bro. Yeah, there's a lot of barriers and hurdles, and you know especially with the regions, but we're working on it. We're already supported in over 30 regions, including the EU, including the US, uh, excluding New York. Working on that. But Canada's coming soon. Dubai and the United Arab Emirates and regions of Africa is coming soon. We should have Canada and Latin America by the end of Q2. The goal is to have this completely global by the end of the year, and it's just amazing to be a part of like building this thing that has like real use case that's like actually changing the way that people bank, like debanking themselves and tapping into like real freedom.
But you still have on and off ramps in terms of converting to fiat when like a user is getting into MetaMask. You still have to have a bank to convert your dollars to get the original amount into MetaMask. You
are you are
have
you
to
saying
have,
are you saying if you don't own any crypto at all?
if you own no crypto and you want to start owning some crypto, you've got to buy it originally. You've got to convert dollars to crypto,
Oh yeah.
and that has to be done. Are you a custodian by any chance?
No, so what we're doing is, if you take a look inside of MetaMask, like obviously there's the layer of centralization when it comes to turning fiat currency into crypto, and we have to be able to make it easier. So in MetaMask, you can actually buy crypto. You don't have to use an exchange, and then send it to MetaMask. You can buy crypto using, credit debit, checking account. You could even use Venmo, to buy crypto in MetaMask now. So again, it's kind
But
of
it
like
goes
it,
it goes through a bank though, right? It goes through a bank. It's a bank
it
on
goes it goes
on
through what you're connecting to. So Venmo, your Venmo account, let's say for
it's
example,
your bank account.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I get it. It's you're still, you have an initial on and off ramp to convert whatever it is that you're doing. If you eventually want to convert it into, the initial amount still has to use a bank, and then cashing out still has to use a bank. That's still our
Well,
one
you
sticking
wouldn't.
point. That's all of crypto has that issue. Is
Well, the
that
user wouldn't be cashing out using a bank. So they're using their crypto, and whatever happens after the fact is settled by, us and banks and Mastercard. So
if they purchase to cash out, but if they want to have whatever it is going to a bank account and liquidate, like to just take cash out of whatever's in in their MetaMask account, they have to go through a bank though, right?
If they want their money in a bank, then they have to use the bank because that's their bank. I'm kind of trying to understand like what
So,
like
So if you want to purchase a good or service or even another asset, for example, you could use the card, assuming that the card is accepted.
yeah.
But in order to access it initially, you have to go through a bank because all of those services, Venmo and Zelle, even, or credit cards or whatever, those are bank services. So you have to use a bank in order to on ramp. And then if you want to cash out, say you say you get freaked out for some reason by crypto, or it becomes completely illegal in your country, you have no ability to move out of your country, and even holding it becomes illegal, and you want to convert it to liquid fiat, right? You can't use it, you can't purchase any goods or services with it. You have to you want to convert it into fiat before it becomes illegal. You would have to do that through a bank. To liquidate all of your assets into fiat, you would have to do that through a bank as well, assuming you didn't want to purchase goods or services, right?
Yeah, well, what other option do you have?
That's what I'm saying. All right, that's the fundamental problem of crypto in general, is that why we can't totally be debanked is that our fundamental on and off ramps are always controlled by banks. That was the only thing. It's not, it has nothing
Yeah,
to do with
yeah. I
the
mean,
card. I'm
yeah,
just
of
saying that there's
course.
a
Yeah, of course. If you want to buy crypto and you don't have any, you got to use your bank. You got to use your bank. And if you want to put your crypto back into your bank, you got to use your bank, of course. But the difference here is that you are dealing with centralized services. So Mastercard is a centralized service, right? Banks, the settlement layer is a centralized service, BAANX. But let's pretend that Mastercard was like, they closed your account for some reason, or banks asked for more documentation and they closed, and you don't want to give it to them. They closed your account. Your assets are not affected. You're still your own bank and you can do whatever you want to do. This is completely different than a centralized exchange card, which, you could be out and about trying to use your crypto. They lock your account and you don't own your own crypto. It's not your own keys, not your own wallet. It's sitting on their exchange.
so,
It's not a top up card where you have to constantly fund it from a centralized service into, the crypto card. But at the end of the day, for example, the what Timo was asking about, like how can I use my USDT in the EU when USDT is not allowed to be used here? Well, technically, Mastercard is global, right? So it's giving the merchant fiat. What's happening in the background is your USDT being converted into whatever ramp at that point in time, and whatever currency it is. In this case, it would be euro, right, or whatever the currency is. So it's irrelevant to the merchant or the processor, and also the user in that scenario. But of course, if you want to turn your crypto back into money sitting in your bank account, you have to use your bank to do that. But I just like, for me, the way I'm looking at it is, Alex, I wasn't thinking about the concept of what if crypto was completely banned out of nowhere in your country and you were just like scared and you had to move stuff out. The way I was thinking mentally was like, why would I want to turn my crypto that I'm getting, let's say 6% automatic yield just sitting there, and then 11% back on every transaction, back into my bank account that gives me nothing, you know?
so Michael, I'm kind of fascinated when you said you're debanked. So you, I don't know if you have a mortgage or you pay rent or what have you, but like, what systems do you have? And are you currently debanked? I don't know if you even want to share that, but what systems do you use where you have to do what was just discussed in terms of bring things down from the crypto heavens into the mundane world of fiat? And how do you settle that? And yeah, I would love to have a space about that, just in terms of, I've had moments where I drive around, I'm just like, I want to be in a different system. I'm just kind of, I would rather have a little more autonomy, and just I don't care to participate.
No, yeah, it would be cool to have like a space around the MetaMask card. I'd love to get a couple of people in from MetaMask to talk about it. But it's sorry, what was the first thing?
The first
My
thing is
mind's
like
like,
those moments when you have to deal with the mundane world. You've got to pay your mortgage, your rent, or something
oh
that's
yeah,
on
yeah,
an
right.
ongoing
So
basis that has to be done. How do you solve that problem? And are we moving towards a place where there will be a vehicle that can go from crypto or what have you to send off a payment in a via fiat, but it doesn't have to go anywhere outside of the system? And
mhm.
would it be possible that the what is it, the crypto dollar or whatever is equal to the dollar? Could that possibly, is that something that's being talked about with this administration, that will be recognized as much as a silverback?
Yeah, well, when you're dealing with anything that's fiat, touching fiat or centralized, like there has to be a settlement that occurs, and the person performing the settlement is most likely going to want a piece of the transaction for it to occur. So um, if we're talking about on like a massive scale, and super, huge amounts of money right now, that's really hard to do, considering even exchanges might not even have those tokens on hand. There's like a lot of things that are being talked about when it comes to like BlackRock or um, MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor buying all this Bitcoin, and like is there enough Bitcoin to buy? Is the price of Bitcoin really what it's saying it is? Or is that just what we're seeing and the price is actually 10 times higher? Like this is where it starts to get very interesting, because a lot of governments are going to start to have crypto reserve holdings, and when governments are looking at bills in order to pass these types of regulation, including the United States with our crypto reserve holdings, and institutions and BlackRock, and there's ETFs and stock, and the thing that's scary to me is we still have people questioning, like, you know is it should I get in now? It's like, well, you had a 16-year head start ahead of all of these institutions and governments and all these people that are about to buy it up from underneath you, and you're still questioning it. So it's going to get to a point where we have to we're relying on centralized services, and we have to have them in order to even off ramp people and on ramp them into crypto to begin with, because there can't just be like an immediate switch. But down the line, decades from now, I want to walk into a gas station and I want to be able to buy a bottle of water, and it costs me 3 sats, and I could do that halfway around the world, and it costs me 3 sats. And someone wants to get paid, I do it instantly within seconds, and I'm not questioned about sending money halfway around the world, and it's settled on chain. And there aren't there those elements of centralization are no longer a deterrent, but actually something that helped us get to that point, right? Like it's required. So like yeah, and ideologically, like I want decentralization and everyone to be on crypto and start using it right now. But obviously, everybody, since everyone's been talking about it, and we still can't have people wrap their heads around what it is, the space will remain an echo chamber unless the narrative is changed and defined. Everybody outside looking in is thinking it's a scam. Meanwhile, the people that are saying that it was a scam are the ones that are buying it from underneath them, and they're too busy with working for a paycheck to pay bills. Like they're not teaching this stuff in school, guys. Like they're not teaching about self custody and encryption and data security and credential management and all these things that we're talking about here. If it was being taught in school, people would be mentally prepared to step into it. But what's being taught in school is how to be a consumer and how to be an employee. So this is why I'm thinking like it's going to take decades until we get to that point, but at least we're starting to tap into it. At least there's spaces like this that help amplify it to some degree. But yeah, centralization is going to remain a massive part of it. That's not going to change for a long time. And I think that it will always remain there, because in the end, there are always going to be people that don't want to be their own banks. They don't want to manage their own keys. They want there to be a custodial service or an intermediary that's there in case they mess up. And they need to be able to dip their foot into the technology or to use or leverage the technology without having to go fully decentralized, without having to actually self-custody. And this is why these elements of centralization are still so important and required, and unfortunately still going to be there for a long time.
Yeah, I think that you know, a lot of people and that goes with AI too. You know, there's all these speculations. You get these thought leaders and these people that are going to say, "Oh, yeah, Andrew Yang, we need to get you know, universal income immediately because jobs are all going," and that no one's talking about, you know, what's the legal compliances? Who's, you know, when it comes to LLMs, who's liable? Is it the LLM? Is it the person that creates the rag from the LLM? I mean, we don't, you know, are brands willing to become vulnerable because something has a hallucination and totally freaks out their customer base?
John, really quickly, you got me thinking about something because I don't know where Alex went. I think she had to drop because she just sent me a DM. But something she was talking about was like, you know, if the entire country like banned, you know, crypto, right? Um, what's stopping? Okay, let me put it this way. You go to a barber, your barber doesn't accept crypto in the current state that it's operating. You can use your MetaMask card to pay him with crypto, and he's just receiving fiat. But let's say they banned, you know, crypto in general, but we were tired of the system that's there. What's stopping my barber from simply making a wallet and me paying him in crypto? It's just a mental. It's a mental mind shift, right? It's like a mental. It's like a mindset that you just have to just wake people up. Like once you get it, you get it. Once you actually understand what this is, you cannot go back to Web 2 mentality. It's just, it's not possible if you really know what's happening. You get what I'm saying? Like what's stopping my the pizza place down the street right now from doing that? And me walking in and saying, "Oh yeah, you guys accept Bitcoin? Awesome. I got Bitcoin. Send it to you." What's stopping them from saying, "Hey, you know what? Anybody that pays in crypto, 10% off your bill." So I walk in with my family, I have $100 bill. The family next to me also has $100 bill. They see me paying $90 and they say, "Wait, how come he gets to pay 90 and I have to pay 100?" Oh, it's because he used crypto. Well, why is he saving money? Well, because we don't actually have to pay credit card fees, Amex, Discover, Visa. We don't have to pay a merchant service provider. We don't have to pay to rent point of sales equipment. We don't have to pay. You know, it's just a mind shift. It's so simple. Yet people are so busy living their lives and trying to survive and being drowned by this nonsense that doesn't need to be there.
Well, reality is agreed upon hallucination, or it's agreed upon
Yes. Yes.
construct that has nothing to do with reality. And but if everyone agrees upon the hallucination or whatever the, you know, the false construct is, then it becomes reality. And you know, we you can get into this esoteric stuff about the mind. We're in the, you know, we are part of the creation of reality in real time. But yeah,
Yo, John,
it is.
we're already over an hour past due, bro. You want to keep going? You want to talk? You want to go deeper down this rabbit hole?
Well, yeah, we could get into some real esoteric talks about the nature of what is, and that has a lot to do, I think, with you know, because money is a talisman. I mean, I can get into this whole esoteric idea about the talisman of money, and you know, people will do all kinds of things for this kind of wild creation that has gotten so embedded into the minds of human beings that that people will do ungodly things for it. And then like, and so what does that mean for society? And then to have that mental shift in terms of taking ownership of that. I mean, I want to stick around, so I'm not going to go too far down the rabbit hole, but it is an interesting conversation that I don't really hear too often
It's a
when it
matter
comes.
of just asking, like question it, right? Like, why is this like this? Like, who made this up? Like, who said that this has to be the way that you're acting as if it has to be? Who?
Idealistic people are kind of worthless in the sense that you need idealistic people, but they're so far ahead of the curve that they die broken and torn apart. I mean, look at Nikola Tesla, you know. the man was probably the smartest man on earth, and we have a lot of things thanks to him, but during his lifetime it wasn't so good. So there is a balance. We do understand, kind of, we know enough to know that we don't want to know everything. So and this kind of treads in that territory a little bit. But I think, yeah, it's 214. I was going to go to the 222, but I don't know. What are you thinking, Mike? I can stick around for a little bit longer. I see we still got some hands, so we got to get to Timo and Juan Carlos.
Yeah, let's get it going for 7 minutes. Let's fit whatever hands are left into that 7 minutes. Let's wrap this up. But I definitely will be hopping back on again in the future. I love refreshing conversations and topics and just things that you're not hearing in other spaces all the time, every day, which is the same recycled garbage nonsense. So really appreciate it. Let's go to the hands. Timo, what's up?
Yeah, one thing came to my mind as I linger a lot on the EAC and EUAC acceleration, AI acceleration spaces and communities. And the reality is that all these, you mentioned BlackRock doing things, uh, all these Web2 behemoths like Meta, X, Google, they're all now, Oracle actually, as far as I know, is already building SMR nuclear power plants just to feed off the
You see what
energy
happened with
that they,
Oracle recently?
uh, not sure,
Cybersecurity
but yeah.
wise?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they're building
But
power plants, you said?
yeah,
Nice.
they're building power plants, and that is to feed off their GPU parks to do their AI. But how is the crypto ecosystem viewing this? As if you're thinking about these basically $100 billion companies building SMR reactors to feed their GPU parks, if they turn that into crypto mining, like they're just gonna have all the crypto. Like, is there like a viewpoint of changing that to something else,
Well,
or
that's not like so what's interesting to that point is that the way that Bitcoin, let's talk, just focus on Bitcoin real quick because you're talking about GPU power and mining and they're going to mine everything. So the way that Satoshi had set this up was he knew that the processing power would increase over time naturally of computers and processors and graphics cards. So the actual compute power that it takes to mine a Bitcoin obviously gets harder over time. And at this point, it does take a lot more resources in order to even mine a whole block, let's say. Um, the fact that 90% of it's already mined, more than 90% of it's already mined, and the mining requirement for processing power is getting harder and harder. It would kind of like, it's set up in such a way where if someone were to try to do it, it would be like counterintuitive and not really, it's not something where they're going to come and overtake 100% of what's left over and they have all the money, like kind of thinking of it like that. It's also like different from the scare that people got when it was like, oh, supercomputers are going to break the algorithm and they're going to break encryption, and there's all these different ways that these supercomputers can get in and hack the algorithm. It's like, yeah, but the compute power that it would take to even crack a private key is not practical or logical for anyone to do. And by the time that compute power got to the point of making it cheap to do it, there would have already been new EIPs, implementations, new forks, or even a fork that would occur that would help maintain the system's integrity. So this is why blockchain is so beautiful, is because it's ever evolving, but it's ever evolving in a public manner. And you can see what's happening, and there's consensus and there's DAOs and there's all these different layers of transparency that would never happen in Web 2, where everything is behind closed doors, or it's patented, or people are not sharing information, and when exploits happen, companies don't reveal how they happen, but the user always gets essentially fucked over, and the company doesn't care about the user losing their data, because at the end of the day, you're the you know, you're the customer. Like they have millions of customers. They don't care if they leak your data. It doesn't matter to them. So that's why, like, the narrative have to change. But I don't think that it's at the point where we have to be afraid of a large company setting up a bunch of servers, or setting up a bunch of GPU units, or compute units, and overtaking a blockchain. The amount of resources it would take is just not practical at that point.
Yeah, it's probably more expensive in the end,
Yeah,
so they can
yeah.
concentrate on just taking over the world with the AIs. But yeah, and Bitcoin, obviously it's a finite resource, so anyways that's gonna run to the final Bitcoin in the
Yeah,
end.
like if
So,
it was like an
but yeah,
open faucet, that would be a completely different story. I'd be like, yeah,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. But let's go to John Carlos because the time is ticking.
Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to tag on to some of these things. I'm a huge fan of Bitcoin. It's the last three letters in my name, John Carlos BTC. A few comments in terms of like fiscal security benefits of Bitcoin. One Bitcoin is always going to equal one Bitcoin. However, one US dollar is always going to equal the cost of inflation. So that's always going to be a variable there. And I just kind of believe, it's a comment that I thought of when you were kind of inquiring about some things, John. Bitcoin is really like an expression of the Fourth Amendment as far as things are concerned, because you can't really actually take it away from anybody. Like Michael was saying, like if what's to stop the barber from wanting to transact in crypto or Bitcoin or whatever other crypto, right? um, Nothing really stops that, because at the constitutional, and at least from the American perspective, but realistically, this is, right to property is mostly present in a lot of, good places. We'll leave it there. But it's a right to property, so there's nothing to stop it there. So it's an expression of the Fourth Amendment, but also something that Alex had said earlier, kind of the whole comment of how do people off ramp or rather on ramp onto crypto and whatnot, when really the best way to think of it is the other way around. Bitcoin and crypto in general, preferably Bitcoin in my opinion, is actually an off ramp to the fiat system, which is actually where you want to be. You don't want to be on ramping to the fiat system. We know that doesn't really work, as we've seen with so many different currencies. Rise and fall. Bitcoin being a finite resource, thank you, Timo, for shouting that out. It's a little bit different. And so I just wanted to highlight some of those concepts. Michael, I do have a question for you with some of that context behind all of it. What is your take on hyper Bitcoinization, and what crypto projects do you think will support this theory best if it turns out to be true, which I personally think is highly likely on the economic side. And so the question is really on the engineering side and maybe even the security side.
yeah, just if you could bring a little TLDR. You said hyper Bitcoinization.
Yeah. So basically, the theory that in respect to the finite aspect of
Oh,
it,
where it
that
becomes like you're saying, like it's used more so than, like, there's a more than 50% of people using it as opposed to other things, right? Like it's now the default.
both in mechanism and in monetary value, because like at that point, the price of Bitcoin is probably something ridiculous like 30 million, 50
Yeah,
million.
yeah. I think that it's going to come to a point, and this is going to take a very long time, but it's going to come to a point where we don't have such a fluctuating nature of it, and because think about it, like if governments are using Bitcoin as a leverage to prove what they have on hand, and right now the thing that they're using to prove what they have on hand is nothing, then you're going to get to a point where it's not just like a net of fiat currency is right now, because like you said, a dollar is not a dollar. A dollar right now is like half of what it was 20 years ago. And in that retrospect, you could even say, you know like let's say you wanted to buy a new house 10 years ago. A new house would have been, decent nice house would have been $400,000. That same house today is probably selling for $1 million. and you're probably taking out a mortgage with a very high percent rate. Let's say 6% for the sake of argument, and over 30 years, you're paying like, you know, a total of $3 million on a $1 million house. So you just paid $3 million for a $400,000 house in the time frame of a decade. That is fluctuating to me. So I think like, which is insane to think about, guys. This is the reality that we're living in. Just like think about it. Like, what is the dollar? Okay, when you're talking about like, you know, it's the world reserve current, like, but to who? Is it just because it says it is? So again, it's a mental mind shift. And I think with Bitcoin and governments building out Bitcoin reserves, and now you're having them actually leverage Bitcoin as an asset value of even you know, exchanging goods and services to a point where the network is not fluctuating in the current state that it is, because it's a highly speculative asset that's being tapped into with ETFs and institutions like BlackRock that are trying to make money on it. We're going to eventually get to a point where one sat is one sat, and one sat is worth one sat everywhere across the world. And yeah, it might go up to you know, an inflation rate of, let's say, 2% or over a few years, but this mandatory 2% yearly inflation rate that they start that is part of the financial system. First off, I'm not sure why no one's questioned it or said it's illogical, because if everything's going up 20% every decade, this is a recipe for disaster. You are going to create a cascading effect, and we're living it right now.
Hey, Michael, I just want to say thank you so much. This is something I'm super passionate about. I bring this up with a lot of my family, my friends. The startup circle is actually really, really important to me. Shout out to Kevin. When I found this community back in, I want to say it was August of last year, I was like, man, this is amazing. And ever since, you know, I've always wanted an opportunity to kind of, you know, help my fellow brethren here around this concept. And I like that we had the opportunity to not only learn from you and your position with all the various wonderful values that you brought along cybersecurity, but you know, by the grace of God, I think this started shifting towards crypto, and just for everybody to be able to hear that stuff coming from you and your stature, I really, 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 really appreciate that. I've been in Bitcoin since 2016, and it's really important to me and my family. So again, just thank you so much.
Love to hear it, and love to know that, you know, your family's also part of the journey. I think a lot of people have a hard time tapping into their family members to try to explain what it is, but again, it's just a matter of meeting them where they're at, talking to them about what they already know, and then having them realize that there is something that is completely different. It's refreshing. There's a safe way to do it. Security in crypto exists. And this is like the logical evolution that I kept on saying of pretty much everything that we're doing. So big shout out to you. I shot you a follow back as well. All right, AI John, are we ready to wind it down?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to go out. My amp is really having a hard time. I was gonna go out and play some music. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. But wait, before you play us out, can I drop an AI security tip?
Please, of course. And yeah,
Okay.
and I think, and also if you want to go spend a little bit on where you think the future is going to go with AI in terms of in terms of I, there was a lot of talk about, oh my gosh, you got to run out in the desert and leave your phones at home and have a security talk. Are we there? Is it going to get worse? Is it going
to are you okay? So let's start off with the AI security tip. You guys can hear me, right? Okay, cool. All right, so AI is being used a lot more by malicious actors. You're using it for good stuff, but there's people using it for bad stuff, just like in every industry. Something that a lot of them have been doing is they're using AI to make their scams look more real. They're using it to put together the email template or the copy pasted version of a real website. And they're also using it for voice manipulation. They're using it to contact your family members to act like you, to claim that you're in jail, or to claim that, you know, something happened to you and they need to pay this ransom, or you got kidnapped. So these are all real scenarios, and it happens to a lot of people and their families every single day. So don't take this lightly. I want you to implement this today. Anybody that's listening to this now or the recording. And that tip is to make sure you have a safe word with your family, a word that you can all share in between and amongst yourselves that nobody else knows, that in case something weird is happening, something seems off, it doesn't really seem like it's the family member that they're claiming to be. Or even if they're spoofing their phone number and you don't know that that's the case and they sound like who they're claiming to are and they're using an AI voice changer, whatever the case, all these scenarios are subverted, they're averted by simply having a safe word with your family in case something is going down. So you might have not talked to your family in a while. I think it's going to be a good time to give them a call. First off, make sure they're not actively being scammed, because there's a lot of ways they could be getting scammed. If you're getting texts and phone calls and emails from scammers, they probably are as well, and they probably have not been told what to look out for. And second, make sure you set up that safe word with your family, a word that only you guys know, that's unique to you, that in case there's a situation going down and AI is probably a part of that situation in order to manipulate the family member, that you have that safe word in place so you don't go through losing money and being stressed out and everyone in the family like acting some type of way. Trust me, it's going to feel a lot better knowing you at least have that in place with the fam. When it comes to the future of AI, I think it should be embraced. I think every industry should use it to make their performance better, to make what they're creating better. I think there's still going to be a separation of people's real creativity and what AI is creating, and there's going to actually bring more value to things that are unique and not AI when it comes to certain fields. But the last thing that we want to do is look at AI as a negative. It is a net positive. It is something that we can learn from. It is something that we could learn how to speak to better so that we can do our jobs better, so that we can create faster, so that we can invent new things and accelerate the development of everything we're doing. So that's my take on AI. I know that originally when AI and crypto and all these different types of new technologies that we're all using today were introduced into the world, a lot of governments, even the American government, was, we're building an anti-crypto army and AI is bad. And it's like what? You don't want to progress? You don't want people to have the ability to own things? What, like, come on, guys. This is it's time for a revolution, and I think it's slowly happening, and it's going to be all in the benefit because of technology. Technology has changed lives, and I think if we use this technology the right way, if we use AI the right way, it's amazing to see where we'll be in 10 years. We'll probably be in a place in a decade from now that we can't even fathom, that we can't even think about, and I'm super excited. Thank you again, John, and everybody that came up and asked questions. You're all legends. Appreciate you, and looking forward to the next one.
Mike, I really, really appreciate it. I'm having some problems with my amp. I live out here in the middle of the desert, and there's a lot of, I guess, river rats and such. Oh, here it sounds really, really kind of horrible, but and so I think Juan Carlos doesn't like it. I don't know if anybody likes it, but sometimes, you just got to throw a cat around a room a little bit and have some fun. It is Friday, of course. And Michael, today was epic. We're going to have you on again and again. I think that we're going to work together as a community to build up our security, and then I think we can then start to go down the direction of running our own being responsible for our own, I don't know what you would call it, financial growth or
Our
what
own
have you.
lives.
Yeah, our own lives. Yeah, because I mean, there's no savior. You're your own savior, and I think that's when people start to understand that the way to resolve anything is just to go look within and then find the hero there. I think everything's going to be a lot better.
No, John, the way is you come into something that you have no idea about, and when you mess up and you lose everything, you cry to Gary Gensler, who unfortunately no longer works at the SEC. That's what you do, right? Right, John?
Yeah, it's so funny. I just wonder what it'd be. It would be a wild experience to have that, and then like act, and then there be people on the other side, saying, "Oh, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. I haven't been in that position where anybody seemed to care if I stub my toe or what have you. So that must be a wild experience. Good for them. So so thank you everybody for showing up. It's Friday. We're gonna have another wonderful week this weekend. Have an amazing weekend. Always we're looking at the future and we're looking at positive, in positive light. There's no other reason. You got to remain optimistic against all reason, because the alternative has no future. So everyone, we're optimistic, we're in the right vibration, and we're looking forward to talking to you all again next week. Thank you for showing up. Thank you, Michael, so much for all your wisdom and your energy. Is really great. Thank you, Juan Carlos, Kevin, Timo, Andy, Josh, Jason, Freeman, Precious, everybody who's here today. Really, really, really appreciate it. The space is only as good as the people that show up, and great people keep on showing up here. I'm really humbled by it. And speakers we had this weekend, Jason Madden was great speaker. We also had these things I keep on going through. We had a lot of wonderful speakers this week, and I just want to thank all of them, and have a great weekend. I could just keep on rambling. I'm kind of bummed that the guitar doesn't sound so good, but I kind of like the fact that it's a little bit
Just rug the space, John. Hard rugged.
all right, bye.